One, two, three, four, five devotees. So thank you so much all for joining. Hare Krishna. I'm very grateful for you, grateful to you for taking this course. My name is Vamsidhari Das. I have been instructing for a few years here in ISKCON London and some of the other places, and I'm still trying to learn myself. And hopefully this is a spiritual journey and a spiritually enlightening journey for you all in this middle section of Bhagavad Gita. So we'll begin with prayers to all the spiritual teachers, spiritual masters, so that I can speak and discuss in the line of disciplic succession, so that it is purifying to me myself and hopefully enlightening to you all, and hopefully you can learn and I can learn something from this. So those of you who know the pranam mantras can do the pranam mantras with me. Those of you who don't know the pranam mantras can actually just listen and meditate on it. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय जन्माद्यस्य यतः अन्वयादितरः तत अर्थेषु अभिघ्नस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदय आदि कवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदं यथ विनिमयो यत्तति सर्गो अमृतं विनम्रितः धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि धर्म प्रोजितकैतवो अत्र पुंसो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वात्सम् अत्र वस्तु शिवादं त्रापत्रयोन्मूलं श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परेरीश्वरः सद्यो हृदि अवरुध्यते अत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूभिः तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबतं भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिकभुवि भावुकः नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रवण कीर्तनः हृदयन्तस्थो हयभद्राणि विदुनोति श्रुहित्सतां यस्यं वै श्रूयमानानं कृष्णे परमपुरुषे भक्तिरुत्पाद्यते पुंसा शोकमोह भय अपः। So welcome everyone. We are soon going to begin this middle section or unit 2 of Bhagavad Gita. This is everyone wants to say that their section is the most exciting section, but I can genuinely hand on my heart say this is the most exciting section of the Bhagavad Gita. You know, there are many commentaries, and I'll take you through different slides, as to why this section is an important section. But of course, before we begin the new section, we have to pay obeisances to the previous section of Bhagavad Gita that you have just now learned. And my way of interaction is there will be a lot of questions I'll pose to you, and I would expect if you are able to if you can answer some of these questions, that would be great. So do you remember anything from the previous unit, or what do you remember from the previous unit?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes, I
yes.
can hear you loud.
Okay, I jumped into the middle of this. This is going to be my very first lesson. I don't know whether you read about it. And
I did.
I'm trying to catch up, but I'm not all the way there yet. What
No
I know
problem.
about the previous section is that it was observing the armies in the very beginning. And
Hmm,
Krishna was had a lot of doubts whether he should fight or not with his family members and friends and
hmm,
teachers. And in the first two chapters, I think Krishna was constantly speaking. Sorry, Arjuna was constantly speaking. And third chapter, uh, I think it was Krishna started speaking about the doubts, and I'm kind of that's where I kind of and maybe someone else can follow up, or maybe you can give me some rectifications if necessary.
no, thank you so much for summarizing, and I think you're still joined at a right juncture in the session. So you may have lost something, but you have definitely not lost everything. In fact, the best portion is just about to begin. So anyone else, any remembrance of the previous unit, previous sections, any chapter?
There is no death of soul. I'll just try to little bit the things that makes me remember the most. There are lots and lots of things. There is no death of soul. We can never save the body. Uh, Working in the benefits of others, doing your duty without attachment. Uh,
Hmm,
that was another one. Then the third one is like you never lose anything so long you take shelter under him. Like we are learning this, so we are afraid because again if we take birth, if we are not able to complete our surrender to him, so wherever we finish we will start
hmm,
from there again,
hmm.
so we shouldn't be worried. So that also, uh,
Wonderful.
yeah, these three major things I remember. I mean, like maybe in the benefit of my oneself, I would say, but there are so many things and so many important
Yes.
points, Prabhuji.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing whatever you remembered. Smita Mataji, you remember anything?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
And what I remember is first there was like Sanjaya starting the conversation with the Dhritarashtra Vacha, and then Sanjaya takes over and he's explaining what's happening. And then that Arjuna was really feeling weak to start with because he had his relatives and teachers, everyone to fight with. And then Krishna takes over and he's asking like, this is your weakness, like you have to be, what are his ideas? He's just briefly explaining in the second chapter. And
Hmm,
I thought that might be the end of the conversation, but still Arjuna carries on in the third chapter about fruity work, what should I do next? So then that conversation is being carried on. And then Krishna says that above the different, above all, what is important is the transcendental knowledge. Then he explains
hmm,
about the transcendental knowledge. And then further on, he explains about how our actions can be carried out, karma can be carried out in Krishna consciousness. And then he finally says about like how about that like dhyana yoga, how we can
hmm,
do the practically jnana yoga, like meditation and stuff, then Arjuna still feels like this is incomplete and this is not something that I can do because mind is uncontrollable. It's not practically possible
Yes.
at this age. So I feel like that's where we need to further start on this. I'm not sure if that's a simple summary of.
No, that's indeed a very decent remembrance of what was covered in the first 6 chapters. So thank you so much for that. Simon, do you want to go in next? Do you remember anything from the previous sessions? I guess Simon's having mic issues. Roshni?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just remember the Arjun's reasons for not fighting.
Being recorded.
There were 5 things: compassion, enjoyment, destruction of the family, and fear of sinful reaction, and his indecision. And then how Krishna counteracts these things with the different types of yogas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, that's also a succinct summarization. Thank you so much, Roshni. We have been also joined by Ines. Ines, did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah, that's correct. So as the previous Mataji has mentioned, so it's like
Recorded.
the starter about like setting the scene, in chapter 1, and then obviously describing like, no, this is your duty to fight and everything, and Krishna is trying to convince, and then he's giving examples and so on, and then also about like different types of yoga, like karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and all of that. Like it starts giving some sort of introduction and explaining what it is and what's our material duty, and what's our duty in this material world, and what he has to do, and like if it's his duty, Arjuna's duty, he should do it regardless, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like some sort of summary.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much.
Hare
Thank you
Bol.
so much for Hare Krishna. And Simon, I think your sound is back. Are you still having troubles with the sound? Okay. So I think Simon may be still having troubles with his sound system.
Recorded.
So hi, Simon. Okay, Simon may be like an AI agent or something. So I'm not sure if Simon is a real person. Okay. I was running. Oh, he's running Linux. Okay, I can understand. I completely get it. Okay. So anyone remembers the last verse of the 6th chapter? Because that's where we left all the threads. Last verse of the 6th chapter.
Yoginamapi sarvesham, Prabhu?
That's right. Yes. Can you recite it, please?
Yoginamapi sarvesham matvadenantaratmanam shraddhavan bhajate yomam same yukta tamo mataha.
And someone can please read the English translation.
And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So essentially, whatever you remembered of the sections 1 to 6, chapters 1 to 6, in this section, this is the summary, where Krishna, in the last verse, is saying that who is the highest yogi, who is the topmost, who is the best. Because there are many different types of yogis mentioned in previous chapters, right? There's a karma yogi, there's a dhyana yogi, there's a different types of karma yogis are also mentioned, according to their mixings and also according to their modes. But essentially, this is the summary of Krishna, that, okay, if you have a great faith and you always abide in Krishna, mat gaten antaratmana. So mat gaten means always thinking of Krishna. If a yogi is of a type where they have dedicated their thought process, they've dedicated their everything to Krishna, then that is the topmost yogi. And I think you all have summarized very beautifully, taking portions from each one of you of the first 6 chapters. There was a dilemma in Arjun's life, and in this dilemma, there is a conversation with a God, right? If we have a dilemma in our life, we have a chance, an opportunity to converse with the God. If there is no dilemma in life, everything is smooth, simple, straightforward. There is no chance for anyone to think outside the box. Then we are inside the box, and we're following the rules and the physical laws of the box. Once we get out of the box, we have a chance to open up, think differently, break the old school ways of thinking, and go left, right, up, down, and think everything, rethink everything again. So Krishna helps Arjun to rethink everything again. And all Arjuna puts forward are fallible arguments to Krishna, but actually none of those arguments actually stand ground. And one after another, Krishna starts to explain what are the different types of yogis and why should one be a yogi. And then Krishna, by the end of 6th chapter, he gives the definition of the topmost yogi. Now, from this first unit of 1 to 6 chapter, is a very exhilarating, very knowledge driven kind of a unit. And from this second unit onwards, from knowledge, there is now the element of heart which comes in. There is an element of sentient being. There is an element of God, which is personal. God, which is human-like, not human, but human-like. So this middle section of Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 7 to 12, it's called cream of Bhagavad Gita. It's like a sandwich. So you have 2 sides of the sandwich. You must have heard this example many times over and over again. You have 2 breads, and inside the bread is the real filling, right? So if you were just given the filling, that's no good. You need a wrap around the filling. Similarly, in sandwich, you need the filling, but you also need the bread. Without the boundaries, without the bread, actually, the filling has no clear sense. It can easily be lost. It has no clear purpose. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita has been very beautifully sandwiched between the first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters. The first 6 chapter, there's very beautifully leading into this middle section, which contains the most important essential message of Bhagavad Gita. And then from 13 to 18 chapter onwards, it's after you've got the knowledge, after you've got what is to be done, then what are the things you need to be aware of to actually be able to lead with that kind of a knowledge. So that is chapters 7 to 12. Let me start sharing my screen and bring up the slides. So please bear with me. Play. So, share screen. Allow to share screen. Share entire screen. So let me know when you see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. When I see my screen, I cannot see you all. So bear with me. I will find a way by which I can actually see you all too. Is there a way to see you all along with seeing the screen? Screen sharing session, yes. View. Speak multi-speaker view, gallery view. Heights of view. Okay, I don't know, to be honest, how to do it, but let me move you all into another screen, and then hopefully I can also see you and also see the presentation. So here we go. Which screen do you see now? That's the question. Do you see the present? Oh, you don't. You see my presentation, or you see the Zoom?
Yeah, we see Bhakti Yoga, knowledge of the absolute
Okay,
slide.
Okay, perfect. So here, this is chapter 7, and I can still not see you guys. Anyways, I think I'll just move ahead. So this is what is the intent of this section, Unit 2. Let's just go through this beautiful statement. Do you know who made this statement? The unexamined life is not worth living.
We can see the second slide as well on the right-hand side, so it's quite
You
clear.
can see the...
Socrates. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much for letting me know. I think I should just share a different screen. Bear with me. Where is Zoom gone? Okay, Zoom's stop sharing. So now let me just share a different screen this time. Share screen. Now to share screen. Share entire screen. To share a screen, you can share your entire screen or a window. I'm not sure window. What window it is.
Testing. Hi there. Can you hear me now? Am I coming
Hi,
through?
Simon. Yes, we can hear you now.
Hare Krishna. Sorry about that. I'm running
Hi.
Linux, so always audio
No
issues.
problem.
Apologies.
No problem. That's okay. So I think you can see my slides, but you can't see the answers, right? Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Now we don't see the slides. Now we see the gallery just.
Okay. Let me just share entire screen this time, because otherwise it'll be allowed to share screen. And share this screen, please. Share entire screen. See it now?
Yeah, intent of this section, Unit 2. The unexamined life is not worth living.
Socrates.
Socrates.
Okay, perfect. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. This was said by Plato. And similarly, another great philosopher, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. This was said by Aristotle. So basically, you can know the person by what they speak, right? What was spoken by Socrates, if you even hear about what he has said, you can have some sense of what kind of person the person is really, isn't it? So similarly, Krishna has said something, and in this chapter from 7 to 12, Krishna has directly talked about himself. It's a direct talk about himself. In previous chapters, he is not so much telling you about himself, but in these chapters, he's actually telling you directly about Krishna. So by actually hearing directly from Krishna, you can know him. What are the other ways you can know a person?
By the way they behave.
Well done. By the way they behave. Well done.
Their
What
work,
else?
their work,
Their work. Wonderful. Yes. Yes. What else?
Sometimes by
Sorry.
the way they look.
By
Sometimes
the
by the
way.
way they look.
Yeah. 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 What else?
By asking others who know them.
Wonderful. Yes. Yes. This is what I was also looking for. But all the answers are correct. Yes. So people who are actually connected with someone else and they have been in connection for very long time, they will know the person even better sometimes, right? They will even know the person's ways and behavior and things which the person may not be really aware of. Although in case of Krishna, he's aware of everything. But essential idea is that you can also know someone from what connected others say. So others who are connected with Krishna, what they say. You can also know Krishna in that way. And so Plato, his student Socrates, Plato was student of Socrates. So he says Socrates was the wisest, the justest, and the best of all men whom I have ever known. So similarly, Aristotle says Socrates occupied himself with moral virtues. So if you have to know Krishna, you will have to hear from Shukadev Goswami, Narad Muni, and the book is Srimad Bhagavatam. Then you will know precisely about Krishna. So there's two ways to know Krishna really, is to know directly from Krishna, which is Bhagavad Gita, or to know from people who know Krishna in and out, who know Krishna so very well. And that is Srimad Bhagavatam. You can also know Krishna from all the above things that, all of you have also mentioned, like work of Krishna, the actions Krishna has done, what things he has done. And some of those books are Mahabharat. In Mahabharat, there are a lot of actions of Krishna, and you can also know Krishna through Mahabharat, though not to an extent to which you can know Krishna directly from Bhagavad Gita. So therefore this whole of Bhagavad Gita, this middle section, is Krishna actually telling you directly about himself. So that's quite profound. And that's why these middle sections, they're actually called the cream of all the Vedic knowledge. So glories of this section of the Bhagavad Gita, this is the middle section. It's the essence. So it says, it gives you the knowledge of God, God beyond the demigods or other powerful beings. It also mentions about person God, or God as a person, as the topmost thing. Then bhakti or devotion is the topmost thing. Hence, this section is called the cream of Bhagavad Gita. If you didn't understand this section, you didn't get it, mate. Basically, you won't understand Bhagavad Gita if you didn't get this section. So that's why this whole section actually begins with a request from Krishna. Interesting. So it begins with a request from Krishna, and Krishna says, he uses the word Tat Shrinu. Tat Shrinu means hear attentively, or please listen, basically, he says. Tat Shrinu. So this section of Bhagavad Gita, really important, 7 to 10 chapters, who Krishna is in all different aspects, partial vision of Krishna and the real vision as he truly is. And 12th chapter is a person Krishna beyond doubt, how to love and serve God, and who God loves, essentially. It's a very interesting portion of Bhagavad Gita, who Krishna loves. Any questions, any thoughts so far? I of course cannot see your faces, so please forgive me. I'm just looking straight into the camera, but I don't have your faces in front of me.
No questions.
No questions. Okay, perfect. So we'll go further. The glories of chapters, just the chapter 7 now. So every chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are glories of the individual chapter, as in what one can get after someone has carefully studied the chapter, or attentively heard it, attentively listened to it. There's a difference between listening and hearing, and there is also a difference between reading and studying. So this is the falashruti, or the benefits of this 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is, according to Lord Shiva, one who studies or listens to the 7th chapter with devotion is freed from delusion and attains unwavering faith in the Supreme Lord. So are you guys deluded by any chance? I guess not. I definitely am deluded sometimes. In fact, a lot of times. So I think seventh chapter is the one which, if I read this chapter regularly, this is the chapter which can actually deliver me from my delusions. And it attains unwavering faith in the Supreme Lord. Regular recitation destroys ignorance, strengthens devotion, and leads the seeker towards bhakti or devotional service to Krishna. This is the Falashruti or the benediction of this chapter, seventh. So it's a very powerful benediction. So are you guys excited to go through this chapter? And then, of course, this whole section. Um, the reason I am so excited is because um, the kind of message Krishna gives in these sections is very personal. It touches the heart of the reader. In a lot of the other sections, Krishna gives knowledge. In these sections, Krishna goes beyond knowledge and becomes very personal to his friend Arjuna. So that's why in these sections you will see a touch, a very human touch. You will see a very friendly touch in these sections, and you can establish a relationship with the speaker of these sections, which is Krishna essentially. So moving further, this is the key for this chapter, meaning these are topics that we are going to discuss in this chapter. And unfortunately, I think, or fortunately, I like to go slow. So essentially, we will be covering only up till Sharanagati or surrender. So we'll start with knowledge about Krishna, 4 to 12, or up till 19 verses. We'll see how much time we get. Just to explain that every verse of this Bhagavad Gita, you can study this at the macro level, which is like a brief reading. Then you can study this at a micro level, which we will try in this our discourse in this unit. But then there is nano and femto levels, wherein every single word of Bhagavad Gita, every single Sanskrit is taken out. Every single word is taken out. You can find so many meanings of it, and then the intent and the content of the whole text is understood, and understood from perspective of many different scholars. Not the mundane scholars, but the devotional scholars, the scholars in the line of disciplic succession, and that is so enlivening to the heart to actually read, or even to understand, even to hear. So we don't have so much time, because trust me, every single shloka of Bhagavad Gita is so rewarding. It's so rewarding and so deep that it can actually take days and months to actually read these, or even go through these verses. Any questions, any thoughts so far?
Not from me, maybe the others.
Okay. Okay.
No, at the moment,
So we'll,
Prabhu, Haribo.
okay, Haribol, thank you so much. So we'll move ahead. So the first section, see, Krishna in sixth chapter, he stopped from the point where he is explaining that someone who is madgaten antaratmanaha. So he's saying someone who is abiding in me, madgatihi. Gatihi means one who has made their destination as me, or one who has made their goal as me. So antaratmana means within himself. He's made Krishna as the goal. And so because he's made Krishna as the goal, he's constantly thinking of Krishna. So Krishna is saying such a person who is constantly thinking of Krishna, or is actually absorbed his mind and intelligence in Krishna. If you absorb your mind and intelligence, your consciousness will be absorbed in Krishna. It's like a sponge, right? Sponge is dipped into a soapy water, and then you take the sponge out. The sponge is full of soapy water till the time you squeeze it. So similarly, Krishna says someone who has absorbed their mind and consciousness is in me, which means someone who is in Krishna consciousness. That is the best of the yogi. So this is where Krishna stopped. So now Krishna begins from this section where he's starting with this important point that he stresses on hearing. And he says, with mind attached to me and practicing bhakti yoga, and by taking shelter of me, uh, without doubt, asamshayam, without doubt, you will completely know me. And how, if you hear in this fashion, simply by hearing in this fashion, you will completely know me. So what is the fashion Krishna has recommended? The way that the process is recommended, the process is recommended is first the mind attached to me. So, no disturbance. no diversions, no mobile phones, nothing, and with like complete attention. Um, practicing bhakti yoga. Practicing bhakti yoga means, at least in your life, starting to realize that it's important for me to practice bhakti. The first stage is realization, and so you have to do even one small thing as part of the bhakti. Even that could be thinking of Krishna. Then what to speak of offering food to Krishna? What to speak of singing for Krishna, dancing for Krishna, working for Krishna, so many things, unlimited things. So mad ashraya is also by taking shelter of me. You have to take some degree of shelter. By shelter, it means that you have to develop some form of faith, some form of relationship comes after you have established some faith. So if you have these three ingredients, then without doubt, simply if you hear about Krishna, then you will know about him completely. And I'll give you an example that when Krishna was going from Vrindavan back to Dwarka, there's these ladies, from the village, simple ladies, very simple ladies from village. They had not done like scholarly education of knowing Krishna, studying about Krishna or anything. The simple ladies, they gathered on top of the rooftops, and they were discussing about amongst themselves about Krishna. And the kind of knowledge that they discussed between themselves, remember, these are very simple ladies with no knowledge of Krishna. Well, no knowledge, no scholarly knowledge of Krishna, but they discussed things about Krishna, which is like the summum bonum, which is like the most important essence of all the Vedic literatures combined. So how come these very simple ladies of village actually know Krishna in so much more details, so much more details? Because they did these three things. Their mind was constantly attached to Krishna. They were practicing bhakti yoga, which means, every day they would see Krishna, cook for Krishna, live life for Krishna. Their day-to-day life was lived for Krishna. And of course, they were in shelter of Krishna because they had taken shelter of Krishna. So because of this, the kind of knowledge, if you go through Srimad Bhagavatam first canto, you will see the kind of details they're speaking is astonishing, because these are the kind of details you will see some mystic or some very great exalted scholar devotee is also speaking in later sections of Bhagavatam. But all of that personality which has got so much knowledge is already known to these very simple ladies who don't go to some scholarly classes, who don't do any scholarly things. All they're doing is these three things. Their mind is attached to Krishna, and they're practicing bhakti every single day, and they're taking shelter of Krishna. So this is what Krishna is stressing here. He is saying to Arjuna, Tachun, simply hear. This is a very important part of Bhagavad Gita, and start simply by hearing from me, you will know me in completeness. So hearing, Krishna established hearing is really the key. And now Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, he mentions important things as to, so okay, we are speaking about hearing, but how do we really hear? He suggests hear directly from Krishna or from pure devotees. Do not hear from anyone, but just hear always directly from Krishna or from pure devotee. So let me just clarify: am I a pure devotee? No, I'm not a pure devotee. I am on the path. Hopefully, one day, will become a pure devotee by mercy of my spiritual master, by mercy of the parampara, the disciplic succession. So what am I presenting here? I'm presenting here to you exactly what I can see from Prabhupada's books, what Prabhupada has put forward, essentially, and in the line of disciplic succession from other spiritual teachers in this line. So therefore, one may not be a pure devotee, but if as long as one can replicate, one can present exactly what the other spiritual teachers from the disciplic succession are presenting, you can still hear from them. But Prabhupada recommends this, is to hear directly from Krishna or from pure devotee. So in our system, we have do's and we have do nots, right? So do not hear from non-devotee upstart, puffed up with academic education. So we have loads of such people who actually speak on Bhagavad Gita. They also like they squish, they take the verses, it's like creating a salad. You throw things in and you create a new kind of salad. So they want to do all such things with Bhagavad Gita, and they create new meanings from it every single day. It's not to say that you can't derive new meanings from Bhagavad Gita, but those are self-realization. Those are pieces of masterpieces that come from within the heart. But a lot of the people, they just want to commercialize Bhagavad Gita, or want to take the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, present it to the businesses, present it here, present it there. And in that process, they actually twist the whole meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. And usually these are people after money, so they just want to make name, fame, wealth from the knowledge of Krishna. So Prabhupada is clearly warning us, do not hear from upstarts puffed up from academic education. And this is the process of actually hearing. Coming back to Q&A, you have heard of this process of, some of you could have heard of this process, but let me just take you through this process and what's the outcome of this process of hearing. So because I've not seen you in some time, I'm going to just quickly okay, here we are. So anyone knows what's the process of hearing? How do you
I
hear?
only know with the ears.
Pardon?
With the ears.
With the ears, yes. Others? Do you know how do you actually hear? So I may actually take you through this. This comes from the Srimad Bhagavatam. There is a section of Srimad Bhagavatam which explains what happens. What is the devotional process? What happens after you hear? You must be thinking, people are saying always listen, hear. But what really happens after you hear Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita? What is the process? The process goes like this. Shinvatam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha hriday antasto haya bhadrani vidunoti shruhit satam. Which means if you hear about Krishna, swakatha, Shinvatam swakatha Krishna, if you hear about Krishna, Punya Shravana, because the Katha of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna are Punya. Punya means something which cannot be destroyed easily. Okay? So Punya Shravana Kirtana. If you hear about Krishna, then it is very great Punya. Hriday Antasto hai Abhadrani. In the heart, there are a lot of bad things accumulated from many lifetimes. What will happen from hearing is the first thing that happens from hearing is you'll suddenly start, your heart becomes purified. I don't know if you have any experiences. Have you ever heard a music or a lecture or something, and suddenly you melt and you start crying? Or you suddenly become very angry? Yes. So that's because that lecture, that sound vibration actually transforms your heart. It melts your heart, transforms your mind, intellect, and consciousness. So this is what happens when you hear hriday antasto hai abhadrani. Now material sound, it doesn't have a power to actually change your inner consciousness, but the spiritual sound is transcendental. I don't know how many times you've heard this word transcendental and ever questioned what does transcendental mean. Can anyone tell me what does transcendental mean?
Means something like something that's above our. I think you would say something that's beyond material processes or something like that. Something that goes beyond us as human beings.
Beyond the material modes.
Beyond the material modes, yes. Yes, that's right. I'm looking for some like an angle of light which will make it a little bit more brighter. The word transcendent or transcendental.
Spiritual.
Spiritual, yes, but just look at the word itself. Transcend, meaning it is, trans means going from one, transporting, right? Transporting. So transcendental. So there is some element of movement, right? There is a movement happening, transporting, transcendental. So I'm just trying to give you the clues, essentially.
So it goes from the ear to the brain?
So it goes
like
from
that.
the ear to the brain. Yeah. It's in a sense, brain, if you take the word brain, like in a deeper sense, like brain is
Understanding?
gross. Pardon?
Yeah. It goes into the intelligence, more
It
understanding, a deeper understanding,
That's right.
something like that.
That's right. Transports from your
Like a
ear, which is
radio,
gross. Pardon?
like a radio, like a radio
Like a
signal.
radio, yes. Yes, it's so when the radio happens, it transports via the waves in the air and then falls in our ears, right? And then it actually goes from our ears, which are the receptors, which are still material, but then it goes, as the Prabhu said, it goes into our intelligence, which is subtle. So it goes from the gross into subtle, right? So what is really this word transcendental is, we have this material medium, made up of various frequencies, right? And then we have soul, and soul is a spiritual element. And to take something from the material realms into the spiritual realms, you have to have some way and means to communicate, right? How do you speak to soul? How do you transport into soul? Like how do you know if your soul is actually listening, right? So anything which is transcendental, it means that it is one which is able to break down the via medium. Just as the radio waves, someone said, like the waves of the radios, just as the radio waves are traveling, they're traveling through a via medium of atmosphere, and then they hit ears, which are the receptors. Similarly, something which is transcendental, it's a sound vibration which is able to break the material via medium, which we can only understand from gross senses. But because we have no perception of the soul clearly in terms of spiritual senses, in terms of spiritual sense, so therefore we cannot completely understand what is transcendental. So the great scholars, the Rishi Munis, the Sanskrit scholars, they have explained something which is transcendental can actually break the via medium of material existence and actually hit directly the spiritual element. That's far out. That's far out for me. This is the first time when I heard this kind of a definition, to be able to break something which is material via medium and actually be able to reach soul. So not ordinary sound vibrations, they cannot break the via medium because they fall under the three modes. And so they're not able to break the via medium and have this communication with the soul. But there are certain sounds which have potency to actually break the material sound vibrations. And therefore, these sounds are called mantras. And even the words of this great spiritual teachers like our founder Acharya Prabhupada, they can actually break the via medium and they can actually hit and have communication directly with the soul. Hence, these words are transcendental. So, what happens when you hear about Krishna, because Krishna himself is spiritual, what happens is your heart becomes whatever is there in your soul, abhadrani, meaning impure things in the soul, you can't remove it. Only the transcendental sound vibration can communicate with it and remove it. So when you hear about Krishna, there is this breaking of the via medium. The sound actually reaches the soul. And then this process of actually removing the impure things of the heart actually begins. Then what happens? Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya. Bhagavate uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati neshtiki. So all the impure things from your heart starts to vanquish for the one who is regularly attending Srimad Bhagavatam classes or hearing Srimad Bhagavad Gita regularly. And what happens then? That you will slowly start to begin developing bhakti towards Uttama Shloka or Krishna. Uttama Shloka means person who is um, described by the best of the choicest shlokas or the poetry. So that happens that slowly the bhakti will start to come. And if you could do this process over a long period of time, then you will become a Naishtik Bhakta. Naishtik Bhakta means one who is determined. It's steady, who's steady. It's like, I don't know if you've seen the ocean, right? Ocean has a lot of waves on top. If you go inside the ocean, it's very calm. It's like none of the waves can disturb the inside of the ocean. So similarly, as you continue to practice bhakti, you get deeper into this ocean of bhakti. You become a steady devotee. And then what happens? And this is an interesting part which people find difficult to understand. It says, "Tada rajastamo bhavas kama lobha dayaschaye cheta iterana vidham stitam sattve prasiddhati. It's at this time when you actually begin to become a steady devotee, it is at this time that your effects of passion and ignorance start to subside and you become situated in the mode of goodness. I thought when I joined the temple, a long time ago, started associating with devotees. After a few months of association with devotees, I thought I'm now in the mode of goodness. You become clean, you become regulated, and you immediately start to think now I'm in the mode of goodness. But this is what it is explained. Mode of goodness is achieved after prolonged period of hearing, cleansing your impurities of your heart, becoming a very stable and situated devotee who is increasing their devotion, who is increasing their devotion. And at that point in time, the modes of nature, they slowly start to subside. And what happens then? At that stage, when you do the devotional service, it gives you great joy in your heart. Even a simple wiping the floor in the temple, or even talking about Krishna, even walking with devotees, every small devotional thing, meaning every second of your day, becomes a great joy to you, because it's all in direct connection and in full connection with Krishna. It's something to be in direct connection, but it's something different to be in full connection. I can speak now, but as I'm speaking, am I also thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord? Am I also seeing the beautiful face of the Lord? Am I also simultaneously in multiple conversations, one in conversation with you all, but also in conversation with Krishna? This is it's not possible for me, but for a lot of people, this is possible. You are in complete sync with Krishna, and you can see Krishna. When I say see Krishna, means perceive Krishna in your heart. Perceive Krishna more and more like that. So this happens, and when this happens, you derive great joy in your heart. And evam prasanna manaso. Prasanna means with great joy. Bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam. And at that point in time, the great realizations start to pop into your heart. Many realizations are constantly popping in your heart, day in and day out. I don't know how many of you have realizations received constantly in your heart, but in this stage of existence, which is a very far out amazing stage of existence, you have constant realizations of the Supreme Lord. Mukta sangasya jayate, and you become a liberated person even while being in this body. And then what happens when you are in this way? When you are liberated, vidyate hridaya granthi means knot, a hard knot which is there in your heart. This is the knot of lust, greed, anger, envy, illusion, pride, attachment. This knot starts to break loose. छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशयः श्रियन्ते च स्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे. So at this time, all your misgivings of the heart, they are all the hard knots which are there in your heart. Even Prahlad Maharaj in 7th canto is praying to Narsingadev, if you really want to give me something, please let the tree of this lust be stunted in my heart. Do not let it grow, and destroy this hard knot which is there, which is also referred by the word granthi. Granthi is called the knot. It says, prays to the Lord to remove this knot from the heart. So when you actually hear properly, you go through these stages of existence. And then what you get is this stage which is asamshaya samagram, which means beyond doubt. You will never have doubt. I don't know if you've heard this story. In this story, there is Narad Muni. You all know Narad Muni. If those who can put on their videos, I'll be very grateful if you can. Do you all know Narad Muni? Narad Muni once goes to the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha and asks him that who is his devotee like that. And the Supreme Lord says, okay, if you want to know who's my devotee, just go to each one of the persons you think is a devotee and tell them that the Supreme Lord just sent an elephant through an eye of a needle. And so Narad Muni goes to first person who he thinks like the best devotee, is a great Brahmana, great scholar. And, he just tells him, the scholar greets Narad Muni, and, Narad Muni tells him, I came directly from Vaikuntha, just from where the Lord resides. I just came from there. And so the Brahmana, he's very scholar. So he immediately starts to smile. Oh, he's coming from Vaikuntha, how it could be. No one can easily reach Vaikuntha. How it can be that he's coming from there? So he thinks like this in his heart. And then as soon as Narad Muni says that the Lord has said that Lord has just sent elephant through an eye of a needle. This Brahmana laughs like crazy. He says this is an impossible. Narad Muni has gone crazy. He's just bluffing. And so he laughs and laughs and laughs at Narad Muni. And so Narad Muni understands that this person I was thinking as a devotee is actually not going to go back to Godhead. Then Narad Muni goes to a simple cobbler, who is stitching the shoes, and he's also a great devotee of the Lord. And then he says, Narad Muni goes to him, and the cobbler, pays respects to Narad Muni, and he says, Narad Muni says, I've just come from Vaikuntha, where the Lord resides. And immediately cobbler pays obeisances and says, yes, yes, you're a transcendental spaceman. Of course, you're coming from Vaikuntha. How is my Lord? He asks him. And what can I do for you? How can I serve you, Narad Muni? And then Narad Muni makes this statement to him that, okay, Lord just told me to tell you that he's just sent an elephant through an eye of a needle. And this cobbler, he pays obeisances again and again to Narad Muni. And Narad Muni asks him what happened, and why was he not disturbed? Does he think it's even possible? In fact, Narad Muni tries to say, is this even possible? This is not even possible. Maybe I'm bluffing. But this cobbler, he says, no, you're not, because every single seed of a fruit can give unlimited fruits. You put one potato in a field, and you have thousands of potatoes that come through. And so he says that my Lord has put so much potency in every single seed that it can give you thousands and thousands of more fruit. What is impossible for my Lord? Everything is possible for him. So there Narad Muni comes to know the difference in faith and difference in love of the two different types of personalities and the perceived, so-called perceived devotees. And so Narad Muni is shocked by this. So similarly, here, to have this unflinching faith, is not possible. It's not easy, but this is the process of developing unflinching faith. Any questions, any thoughts so far?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So you've spoken twice now about faith in Krishna. So could you talk about the difference between belief and faith?
Wonderful. I will have to introduce three concepts. One is belief, the second one is faith, and the third one is Shraddha. Shraddha. So the belief is at the mental platform. It could be under the influence of the modes of nature. And modes of nature you're going to study in depth from chapter 13 onwards. So in the next section, first chapter onwards. And the whole of next section is about the modes. So belief can be at the level of the senses. So whatever you see, so there's three ways to get knowledge, which is anuman, pratyaksha. Someone who has told you about it. You see something directly, and something you infer, like induction and deduction ways of understanding something. So that is all at the level of mind, intelligence, and your five senses. Something that you have seen, you have touched, you've eaten a tomato, which was the sweetest tomato of all times. And you now believe that all tomatoes are always sweet. Then you travel to, say, for example, India, and you see the same sized tomato, you put in your mouth, and it's the most tangy tomato you've ever eaten. And then your belief is broken that the tomatoes are sweet, because the tomatoes being sweet was dependent on the sense of taste. So your belief system is now broken. So anything which is based on belief is bound to be challenged, and it's impermanent, and it's unstable, because they're at the level of the senses. Then comes faith. Faith goes one step ahead, and faith in the sense of faith, you go one step ahead, beyond senses, and you go to the level of intelligence, and something which is repeated many times to you, and you have actually analyzed it through different understandings. You basically make that as a faith, meaning, like you see a rope in the dark, and you think of that as a snake. So you start to believe that at nights there are snakes which come out. So this is initially a belief which is based on the senses, but then you go home, you start to ponder, you think, you apply your brains. Yeah, it's true. I live in Amazon. There are a lot of snakes here, and then over a period of time, you analyze it in from different perspectives, and you realize that no, in this portion of the land, there is always snakes. Now, what happens is after some years, there is industrialization in that area, and all the snakes are being killed, and they all run away from everywhere, from that land, essentially. But now you still have some form of belief so far that there might be, there was snakes in the past. Now there might not be snakes, but one sudden night you see the snake again in this completely industrialized belt. And now it reinforces your belief that actually this land is blessed by snakes. And so in your mind, this belief now becomes faith. And it's unshaken because after many tests of situations, after many tests, the same thing comes out to be true. So this becomes now your faith that, okay, this is how it is. It's never going to change. This is what it is. Now I have to introduce to you one more concept called Shraddha. This faith that you have just now developed under different situations, this is still on the material platform because it's scientific, sometimes it's emotional. It's still at the level of mind and intelligence and false ego, right? So on these three platforms, mind, intelligence, false ego, and if you don't know of these three things, I'll explain to you as and when the sections of Bhagavad Gita come in detailed analysis. So it's still based on these three things, which is experiential learning and your intelligence, your false ego, some analysis, tests of time or number of years, many people, situations. Now you have a strong belief in the idea, you have a faith in that idea, but you don't love the idea. You're not attached to the idea with great intensity and love and fervor that you would like to be. So this word Shraddha it comes in Sanskrit, and this word Shraddha means faith, but attach it with love. So you can have belief in God, you can have faith in God, which is reinforced learning from many people, many situations, many times, your own experiences. But then you develop love. And in that state of love, if all of your beliefs, situations, and everything else gets challenged, you don't stop still loving back. It's like the love of Mother Yashoda. You tell the mother that he's not your son, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's created everything, and she would say, no, you're fool. He's not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Every time there is a lightning, he runs and comes to me. He's afraid of the lightning. Every time he wants to eat butter, he comes to me and takes away the butter from my yard. So for the mother, Krishna is never God, because there is an element of love. There is this Shraddha. So Shraddha can be of many types also, depending on the flavor, the fervor of mood and everything else. But hopefully this answers your question, Prabhu.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, the Shraddha is a little bit more difficult, but yeah. But I mean, believing in Krishna without faith means there's no surrender, possibly.
Yeah, believing in Krishna without any faith, as I said, it's at the sensual platform. So beliefs can change. Faith is more difficult to move.
Yeah, and faith comes from within, maybe from the heart or something like that.
Yeah, you could say that faith comes from within, from the heart. It's the prior stage to Shraddha. The faith can also be moved. This is what I'm saying. If it comes from within, but still it can be moved. But when the faith gets tinged with some affection, then that affection is what the soul captures. That cannot be moved. That cannot be moved easily. People say, oh, he cheated me, my faith is broken. Right? You've heard that.
Yeah.
That's what happens with faith. That's what happens with faith. With Shraddha, it's a little bit different. you don't place Shraddha on anyone other than the Supreme Lord. So if you say, I have Shraddha on you, the instructor of my course, you could be cheated. You could be like feeling bad about it. You could be brokenhearted. You could be many things. But if you put the faith in the Supreme Lord with affection, that becomes Shraddha. And then that is never broken. It goes beyond the stage of someone trying to move you or tell you some piece of information, or trying to cheat you, trying to give you something to move away, because this is where you have placed your heart.
Okay.
And when the
Yeah,
heart
I
is
think
placed, yeah.
sometimes it comes close to motherly love or something like that.
Yes, comes
Close,
close
not the
to,
same.
not the same. Yes, close to motherly love, close to deep friendship. But the closest the topmost maximum pedestal you can get in the material realm is motherly love, because in the material realm the conjugal love is not really the love, and only the selfless love in the material realms is the motherly love. So therefore the closest one example given is the motherly love. Yes.
I think Simon's asking a question.
Yes, sir.
Apologies. So is it fair to say then that faith and belief are related to the epistemological sources of pratyaksha and anumana? So the process of anumana, where you have a syllogism, I see smoke on the mountain. Ergo, I can assume based off of experience that I have received through direct sense perception, pratyaksha, that there must be a fire on the mountain. So belief and faith are both related to those epistemological sources, but Shraddha goes beyond those epistemological sources, and sorry, that's my first question. And then if that is fair to say, how does that relate to Shabda? Is Shabda is related to Shraddha in that case? Is that fair to say?
Yes, for the first two, faith and belief, you kind of got it right, in the sense that prataksha, anuman, and all those things, induction and deduction, even that. But when you speak of Shraddha, the basic stage of Shraddha is faith, meaning something that has happened with you repeatedly. Like you go to the temple, every time someone comes and gives you a laddu, gives you like a sweet, it repeats like 10 times. Then 12th time, 11th time, you go to them, that now as soon as you enter, you're going to get a sweet. So that is like you've developed the faith because something has happened to you repeatedly on the mental platform, on even to the level of emotional platform. But when you speak of Shraddha means you have striven for, you were striving from your side after developing some faith to develop some love or some affection. And the beginning stages of love is an affection. An affection could be for a friend, affection could be for a partner, affection could be for a mother or a father, but some form of affection, a relationship, like something not more, something not at the level of just the mind and intellect. Because when that kind of affection develops, the first thing that comes out of this affection is service. First thing that comes out of this whole thing is service. So you end up doing some service. And service could be even thinking regularly, systematically, consistently. It could be doing something regularly, systematically, consistently. I'm using these three words: regularly, consistently, systematically, because it's like the basis of all kinds of relationships, which are long lasting, eternal, and going to withstand the test of time. So when that affection develops, the next stage of that affection is kind of a service. But that affection is not fully matured. There's no full love. There is no, but you have it in your heart. You can't explain it to anyone. And so slowly your faith transcends into Shraddha. And at this stage of Shraddha, someone comes and say, "Oh, Krishna is not a god. He is a human being," and you're not disturbed because you have the Shraddha. The agitation of the mind is almost subsided. I wouldn't say completely subsided, but it's subsided to a great extent. Faith can be moved and can be shaken. Like very classic, right? Catholic Christian becoming a Protestant or becoming a Islamist, or Islamist becoming a Jew, or Jew becoming Hindu, all those kinds of things. That's faith. You take a faith, you remorph it because it was still based on Anuman, Pratyaksha, and all those things. Shraddha goes deeper. Shraddha is at the level of affection and love. And in the beginning stages, affection is the first reflection of it. I hope it answers your question. But if there are more, please feel free to shoot.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes, that answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so wonderful question. So process of understanding Krishna is hearing is really important, and the process of hearing, and actually what happens, we've been practicing Krishna consciousness for a long time, and even after practicing for a long time, when you come to actually read these verses are very profound, and they're explaining that after a prolonged period of time you come into mode of goodness. When you come into mode of goodness, the kind of joy you get is crazy. The kind of joy you get in performing Krishna conscious activities on a day-to-day basis is amazing. This is the kind of reciprocation which awaits for devotees who have been practicing consistently for many years of time. Ask any devotee who started young or started late, and who has practiced more than 10 years in their Krishna conscious, and even to be better, more than 15 years, why are they still in Krishna consciousness? And it could not be the case that they have directly perceived the Supreme. They're directly getting some joy in Krishna consciousness. That is one of the sole motivations that keeps them going in this movement for a very long time. Is because after a long time, they start to, if they practice it properly, they will start to come into the mode of goodness. You will see that they're becoming more peaceful, calm. And if they're energetic, you will see find a sense of peace even in their energy. They'll be like not super easily disturbed and all those things. And in that stage of existence, of mode of goodness, they can actually remember Krishna more and more. And so they can relish their service. They give an example of two people, one who is scheduled to do some service in the temple, comes every Saturday, 6 a.m. in the morning, and mops the floor, right? And they do it year after year, regularly, year after year, without hearing about Krishna, without doing anything. They just do this because they have to do this as a chore, as a service. And for whatever reasons, they just do it. As opposed to someone who actually comes to the temple same time, another time, but every time they come, they're actually meditating on the Lord, meditating on the supremely blissful form of the Lord, meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. They're meditating, they're thinking about the Lord. They have read something the previous day, they're rethinking. This is the process called mananam, or reflection. So they're going internally deeper and deeper on this path of journey of reflection. And while doing all of this internal journey and reflection and internal talking, they're actually mopping the floor. This is a mind-blowing state of existence, one of the highest state of existence. This is the state of existence that all the devotees of Vrindavan have. When the mother Yashoda is actually churning the butter, she's doing anything for Krishna. Any devotee in Vrindavan doing anything for Krishna, while they're doing their activities, they're singing about Krishna. They're constantly singing about Krishna. So their mind and intelligence and senses, they're all fully dedicated. And at the same time, they're doing external actions. They're doing external actions. The problem with us is we are doing a lot of external actions, but our mind, intellect, and presence, the consciousness, is not there in Krishna. So hope this is clear. So when such a state is attained, where we can actually constantly hear of Krishna, we derive great pleasure in doing the devotional service. Sometimes not in the present stage, we feel service is difficult to do, but actually in that state, the service gives you joy, so you keep doing more and more service. Sorry, bear with me. I have to take some water. And when someone's doing service like this, and they're enjoying service, peaceful, not creating any offenses to anyone, then all the knots in their heart, what are these knots? How do these knots come about? These knots come about from something called as samskaras. Samskaras are impressions. in our life we have been raised in certain families. In previous life we have been raised in certain families. We have had certain friends, family members, and we have some scars or impressions of all of these things. And whatever good and bad we have done ourselves in our lives, we have these impressions. All of these impressions vanquish. All of these knots, the hard knots of attachments to the material world, to the material people, material relations, all of these vanquish. And in this state, we are in direct connection with the soul, meaning we're feeding the soul. The real feeding of the soul, intense feeding of the soul begins at this stage. So the second verse of this chapter, it speaks about Gyan and Vijnana. Gyan and Vijnana. So, Krishna says, I will explain to you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal about my material and spiritual energies, and numinous about my personality and sweetness. So Krishna says, I'll explain you both about my energy and about myself. And knowing this, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So this is also called complete knowledge. If you know about Krishna's material and spiritual energies, but at the same time you know about Krishna's personality, then you know everything. You don't need to know anything beyond this. But here comes the concept of Jnana and Vijnana. Jnana means knowledge or theoretical knowledge. I don't know if you can see this or if this is too small. You're able to see this?
Yes.
Okay. So Jnana or knowledge or theoretical knowledge, and theoretical knowledge that generally results in this attitude of greatness. I have this knowledge, I'm great. Sometimes it also you also develop awe, for the person you know more about, and end outcome of that is respect. You start to respect someone in awe, reverence. You have this feeling of greatness for them or for yourself. And then Vijnana, it basically means realized knowledge or applied knowledge of wisdom. And it results in grounding, because you realize that after using this knowledge, what are the situations, what are the outcomes, how do you feel in that situation? What has been your internal journey of evolution? What has been your thinking process while you have gone through all of this journey of gathering knowledge and applying the knowledge? So that results in you becoming grounded, self-realized, like that. And then there is a progress beyond greatness towards love and devotion, specifically in Vijnana, meaning self-realization. So if someone's self-realized, you will see, they'll become more humble. They'll move beyond greatness, and they could move towards love and devotion. So chapter 7 and 8, the jnana pronounced as jnana. So I've written that because J means janana, but actually in Sanskrit it's pronounced as jnana. And Vijnana, it's not Vijnana, it's pronounced as Vijnana. So Vijnana and Jnana. So chapter 9 describes Vijnana, and 10th and 11th, they both describe Jnana and Vijnana. So verse 3, it mentions the importance and rarity of Vijnana. And Krishna says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschin yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. So very famous verse, right? Most of you must have heard about this. But here Prabhupada mentions that, there are many stages of human beings. There are human beings which are like animals, like very low stage of existence. And then there are humans, where they first begin questioning, who am I? And that is the platform from which, if anyone is asking this question, who am I, or even indirectly coming towards this question, I don't know, you guys must have seen a lot of the yoga practitioners, right? The people who are doing mindfulness, people who are doing this and that. Actually, they're troubled by their bodies, and they want to establish a deeper connection with their bodies. They want to have more control over their mind. And actually, they're slowly coming to this question, who am I? So these people, usually come in the category of, humans. And this category and definition is not by me, it's by the Vedic literatures, Athato Brahma Jignasa, meaning the persons who actually come to this platform of asking, who am I? And then higher than those are the people who are actually wanting to do self-realization. And self-realization, there's a famous verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vadanti tat Tattvavidam Tattvam Yajnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagvaniti Sabdyate. So self-realization is in three stages: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. So a lot of the people who undergo self-realization, they are stuck at the level of Brahman, like 99%. Very few percentage of people will go out to Paramatma stage, like 1% less than that. And out of the people who actually are at the Paramatma stage, barely anyone reaches the like a full Bhagwan realization, like a full-blown understanding of Bhagwan. So what has happened is people think that bhakti, or the process of actually understanding Bhagwan, if you have to understand the full realization of God, which is called Bhagwan realization, the process to understand the Bhagwan realization is bhakti. And people, like specifically a lot of the, impersonalists, they think that bhakti is easy. These are mostly armchair philosophers. They think bhakti is easy. Whereas if you ask them, can you do bhakti every day? Can you chant few rounds every day for Krishna? As a sadhana or as a practice, can you do it? They would just not be able to do it. Although they'll keep saying, "Oh, this is sentimentalism. You can. It's very sentimental. You have to invest your emotions. Sometimes you dance. Sometimes you do this." But then, when we tell them that, okay, there's also these regulations. Essentially, is to chant the holy names. That's the most important one. Can you do this like at least one round for 10 minutes a day, every single day? You'll be you'll be very amazed. Most of the people were not easily able to do it. Someone who is able to do it regularly, they are the prime ripe candidates on this path of bhakti, in this path of devotion, having coming towards full realization of God. And then only Krishna's devotees can know Krishna, because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. So something which is extremely rare, it's not easily possible to get. Who can give such a knowledge? Only the person who has this knowledge, right? Only the person who knows about himself. So only Krishna can give you this, because Krishna is benevolently inclined to his devotees. So, and therefore, six Goswamis of Vrindavan, they have said this, that Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grahim indriya sevon mukhehi jivvadu swayam eva spurati yada. It says no one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses. So if you've not done any tapasya, if you're used to eating like a pig every single day, if you used to eat, spending most of the day time of your life just working like asses and donkeys, and you have no time for your spiritual existence, you're just feeding your body, buying new clothes, buying new house, buying whatever for your wife, friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, just focus only on these things of life, then your material senses will become very dull and blunt. And because they become so dull and blunt, if someone comes to you and gives you any kind of spiritual knowledge, first it needs a lot of penetration, it needs a lot of drilling, to actually be able to get this information out to them. But if Krishna reveals himself to his devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. So therefore, a lot of people, who come to the Krishna consciousness movement, we somehow try and engage them in some service, because by doing service, their material senses, which have gone very blunt, being in constant touch with the matter, they will become sharpened again. And this is how they will actually slowly know Krishna. Fourth verse. So first three verses was about importance of the knowledge. So I will go back to this thing. So first three verses were glory of the knowledge about Krishna. So just the knowledge of Krishna is glorious. And now we are going to deal with Krishna's energy, which is verse 4 to 12. So this fourth verse, here Krishna starts to speak about his energy, and Krishna begins with the gross energies first. Gross is something that can be perceived, and subtle is something that cannot be easily perceived. So Krishna is speaking about Bhumi Rapo Analo Vayu Khammanir Mano Buddhire Vacha Ahankara Iti Yamme Bhinna Prakriti Astada. So Krishna mentions about earth, water, fire, air, ether, and which are the five gross elements. And then, from these five gross elements, you have these five causes, which is smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. This is all based on the face, located on the face. And then three subtle elements, which is mind, intelligence, and false ego. Um, and basically, from these mind, intelligence, and false ego also includes its effect, which is the 10 senses. From this three subtle sense, these 10 gross senses which have come about: nose, tongue, eye, skin, ear, hands, feet, voice, anus, and genital. So there is Sankhya philosophers which study the material elements in depth, and by studying material elements in depth, you actually come to a lot of spiritual realization. So they go a very hard route of analyzing every single sense, analyzing every single. So say for example, they'll analyze nose, and they will try to understand what are the functions of nose, what are things nose can do, what are the conditions in which how the nose behaves, and they'll do crazy analysis on nose. They'll document it, and they'll understand in and out about nose. Then they'll go on to the next element, which is tongue, eyes, skin, ear, like that. So they will do these things, and in this way they document all of this in a lot of details, basically. So that is called Sankhya philosophy, where people actually get into the details of understanding matter, and by understanding matter, slowly they try to understand the spirit soul. It's a tedious process, but people do it. Then Krishna says, besides this inferior material nature, there is jiva. Um, there is a superior conscious energy of mind. Both all of these lower energies were unconscious. Now there is a conscious energy of mind. O Mati and Arjuna, which comprises the living entities who exploit the material nature for their enjoyment. So the jivas, us as the living entities, we are above the material nature. Jiva is also called the Tatashta Shakti, or the marginal energy of the Lord, because although spiritual and can control the material energy, the Jiva sometimes comes under its influence and becomes the conditioned, forgetting his real spiritual position. So this is our situation. This is our situation essentially, where we think that I am the matter and material acquisitions are mine. So I'm going to pause here for a moment, and just ask one question. How many of you in your life have ever thought of this, that I am matter and all the material acquisitions are mine? Have you ever tried to make some money? Have you ever tried to buy property? Have you ever tried to buy a new car, new dress, and after buying a new dress, you wanted to get one more dress and one more dress, or you have eaten a gulab jamun or rasgullas and said, "Okay, this is amazing. I just want to go for more and more and more and more," and it just doesn't stop. Happen to you? I guess it happens to
Yes,
everyone at some
yes.
point. Yeah. So when I joined, I really liked the rubbery. The manner rubbery was out of the world. My God, but it was a sugar injection in your arm. It was so sweet. And I used to go to the temple for this in the beginning stages. Um, but essentially, that is where this kind of understanding is where you're actually thinking that I matter and I want to enjoy more matter. And in this stage, you are actually in complete forgetfulness that you're the jiva, and all you're trying to do is exploit the material nature. And this also happens in devotional spiritual circles, material circles. In material circles, we want to get ahead in the rung of being the topmost employee, right? We want to become boss, then boss's boss, then boss's boss, from simple analyst to a vice president, to director, then executive director, then CTO, COO, and don't know what. And similarly, if you're in the spiritual circles, you come from the materialistic coverings, and you're not easily able to give up your material coverings immediately, but in some time you're getting purified, and you're slowly going to become very pure devotee. But in the meantime, what happens is there are a lot of material coverings, and you become like a temple commander, or you want to have like so many, you want to control so many devotees. That's because we're still not completely given up the idea that I'm not the matter. I'm the spirit soul, and I need to behave on the platform of spirit soul, which essentially means to constantly remind yourself that I'm not here to exploit the material nature. It's like a statement of your life. People have this, every email they send, they have this automatic statement embedded in them. And this can be one of the statements, essentially, is I am not here to exploit the material nature, which means I'm not here to exploit other people. I'm not here to exploit other situations. I'm not here to exploit anyone else. I'm just a living entity myself. So this is a gross misconception of the jiva, and it's very difficult to overcome. Even though you're listening this at this point in time, it is many years of practice to actually come to a clean realization that I'm a jiva. I'm just a simple living entity. I'm not the controller of all of the living entities.
Isn't that just
so
addiction? Isn't that just addiction?
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning that. It is an addiction, but more than like addictions, you have these houses, where you can go and become de-addicted, right? With some programs, the problem is this is conditioning. Conditioning is like addiction multiplied by gazillions, and becomes practically impossible to come out of this kind of conditioning until unless you really get a blessing of someone, or you practice the process with great sincerity, and the outcome of the process automatically takes you away from this conditioning. Conditioning is like, an elephant. When an elephant is a child, it's put inside a big rope, like an iron rope. uh, you know chains are put in the neck of an elephant. An elephant as a child baby is trained to understand that it cannot break this iron shackles. So elephant, when it grows up, becomes like a big elephant. It still thinks it cannot break this iron shackles, because it was conditioned in these shackles from the childhood. Even though elephant can very easily break these iron shackles, like if it desires so, but there's no memory of it. There's super conditioning of it. Similarly, a soul has full conditioning. It can very easily come out of this material body, material conception of life, but because we are so badly conditioned, we are not able to come out of it. So how can someone come out of a conditioning, really? Is through devotional service, is through the process of coming out of this conditioning, and through the mercy of devotees, through the blessings of someone who is a pure devotee. So now I'm going to speak something which could be a little bit disturbing, but I have to say it. So there are three things I'm going to mention. This is energy is always controlled by energetic. If you understand this, that energy is always controlled by energetic, and you also understand that we human beings are actually energy of the Lord, and we are actually the superior energy of the Lord. It's such a shame that superior energy has actually come under the control of inferior energy, which is material energy. So jivas being the superior energy, because we are actually the part and parcels of the Lord. We are spiritual in nature, like He is. And so we, as a spiritual energy, we are also called marginal energy or tatastha shakti, because we are on the boundary. We can choose to go up or we can choose to go down, but somehow we have always chosen to come down under the control of the material energy. So because of this, it's a distress. We being the spiritual, we being the higher energy, we've come under the control of the lower energy, which is the material energy. And so we are one of the energies. And so we are saying that energy is always controlled by the energetic, and energetic being the Supreme Lord. So there are three statements which could come as a thunderbolt to some, and could also sound a little bit rude, but it's not rude. It's just scientific. It's just a fact. And so the first one is, so living entities are always controlled by the Lord. It's an antithesis, right? So sometimes we don't want to hear this. This is the last thing we want to hear, actually, that we are being controlled, because the whole system is trying to tell us we are independent, we're free. But here we are saying in Bhagavad Gita clearly that we're one of the energies of the Lord, And energy is always controlled by energetic. And so all living entities, which energies of the Lord, are always controlled by the Lord. Second statement, there is no independent existence. I'm so sorry. I'm so anti. I'm not, but I sound like I'm so anti-free freedom and independence. But this is a fact that the soul is actually part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And just as the sun ray cannot exist without sun, it can only last so long, and then the sun ray just disappears into, so essentially there is no they have no independent existence. And thirdly, they are never equally powerful as the Lord, as unintelligent men think. So we cannot become Thor, we cannot become Iron Man, we cannot become whatever and become as powerful as the Lord. It's just not going to happen. That there is one post that has been occupied, and we're just under the Supreme Lord. I am sorry if this has sounded very rude, or it has made you distressed. But in coming sections, I am going to scientifically explain to you why these three things are actually a blessing, and why these three things are so nice if you have acceptance of these three things. If you don't have acceptance of these three things, then possibly most of us are here because we were rebellious in nature. I don't know about you all, but I was super rebellious. And the more rebellion you do, the more you realize that you can't actually control things. And when you go really can't control things, then you start to ponder why things are not coming under my control. And that is the journey that the soul goes through, to realize that actually these three things are true: that living entities are always controlled by the Lord, they have no independent existence, they're never equally powerful as the Lord. Any questions, any thoughts, any corrections? Please feel free to discuss before we move on to the next point. No, okay. So everyone's fully surrendered here, it seems. They're okay with these 3
No,
points.
it's not true. Didn't we, in the last unit, I mean, the others probably know better than me because they were following a bit. Didn't the previous tutor speak about the Lord has given us free will?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I vaguely remember that he spoke about that in the previous chapters.
Yeah.
That topic was spoken about. So
Hmm.
we're always controlled by the Lord, but we're given free will. But I think it's to a certain extent.
Hmm. Yes. This question often comes up.
Maybe it's not for
And this,
now. So I don't want to waste everyone's time.
sure. Do everyone else get the question from Debanath Prabhu? And do they want answer to this question, or I'm happy to proceed further ahead as well?
I personally used to have that same question, but I feel the eligibility factor is also big, like tolerance, like when your car has less fuel, how much far you can go with that, with like immediately. Is it 1 kilometer? Some cars allow you to go 5 kilometers. And again, I feel like, I mean, like I might be totally wrong because I'm totally ignorant. I'm still learning. And I feel like free will is subject to how much tolerance I have been given to act out of me. And that also gives like why somebody is still at the average, somebody is in the middle, and somebody has done a lot. If I don't try, so God has given, I have given you this much. You are here, you try with your free will, see if you can travel here or you want to travel here. So that is my very novice concept of free will.
Okay, good. This
I
question. Hi,
think,
Sam. Yes.
Hare Krishna, sorry for interjecting. This is
No
something
problem. Go ahead.
I give a little bit of consideration to. And of course, I agree with all 3 points. And intellectually, I can understand them, but how often in my life do I rebel against in my actions? Do I rebel against these points intellectually? Of course, I know them. Even things such as great life events where we perhaps mourn the loss of someone or a dependent or a mother or a father or something like this, without the firm shraddha, without that firm faith, we can begin to question things like, but this was taken away from me, Krishna. Why would you take this away from me, without understanding that, or without accepting rather, that everything belongs to Krishna? We start to kind of perceive ourselves as being the owners or proprietors of these things. So I think even on that level, we can, at least I know I personally can be challenged to live what I intellectually can kind of agree with and say, yes, of course, I have free will, and it's minute free will. It's merely a reflection of Krishna's ultimate free will.
Beautiful.
So I think, yeah, that's my thoughts on the matter. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Nagesh and Ines?
I personally think that there's no such thing as free will. Like, it's like some sort of illusion sort of thing, right? Like, you think that you have options, but like it's like predetermined, because Krishna knows everything and he knows what we will do and so on. So it might seem, oh, I have an option. Like, for example, when you wake up in the morning, you have the option to chant and not to chant. But Krishna knows what you will do. And also, someone gave me the argument that you always do what you most desire to do. So therefore, you have no free will, because you will always end up doing what you most want to do. If that makes
That
sense.
is a very good answer too. Yeah, that is also coming from Bhagavad Gita. Wonderful. So this opens a bigger Pandora's box, because I have to cover both these areas. Because one of the most interesting topics of Bhagavad Gita, does answer this in great depths in different chapters at different points. Nagesh, you have also something to share? I think Nagesh might be having issues with his mic, so I proceed ahead. Thank you so much. This is some deep realizations, and also possibly what you have heard from other people is what you have shared as well. So, minute independence or minute free will is an important concept. How can I explain this to you very graphically? I'm going to use an example, which some of you may know, and I think most of you know, but some of you may not know, so please forgive me about it. How many of you have seen Endgame? Endgame, right? No, not seen. Okay, good. There's no need to see it, but I'm just making use of this example. There is this Doctor Strange who sits in a yoga position and then goes all possible combinations and comes up with, says there's only one combination which is possible, in which you can resurrect all the half population that has been lost, right? So there is a school which thinks that actually Krishna never forces you to do anything. Never ever forces you to do anything. You might be forced by a modes of nature you have acquired from the birth. So someone who is in passion will end up doing something which is in passion. But Krishna never forces you to do anything. Krishna provides you choices, right? And you are free to choose the wrong choice. And Krishna will never intervene with that. Only thing is there will be outcomes based on those choices. Krishna even tells Arjuna, and you will see this in 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, is Krishna shows universal form to Arjuna. And Krishna shows that, okay, these people who I desire to be killed are actually already killed. These people that you're standing here to fight, they're already killed. And Arjuna sees this, right? And Krishna then tells him, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, now I've told you everything about Bhagavad Gita. Now you choose what you want to do, right? And Arjuna at that point in time could have chosen not to do this fight. Trust me, Krishna would have still killed all of those people, even without Arjuna's choice of cooperating with Krishna. So one, Krishna never intervenes in your choices. They are your choices. But the problem is people forget with the choice comes outcomes. And so they're ready for the choices, they're not ready for the outcomes. So make your choices and there will be outcomes. But Krishna will not intervene your choice. And the biggest problem we have in understanding free will is because we also don't understand the concept of time. Because time is an infinite thing, kala. And so what happens is we think that, okay, we made a choice, and therefore after making the choice, this is the outcomes. We have to start our life and we have to reach Krishna. Well, you may reach Krishna in 1 lifetime, 2 lifetimes, million lifetimes. I don't know, some of you might be going out on book distribution, or some are going out on some service. Sometimes you meet people on streets. And when you meet people on streets, they may have some arguments with you. Sometimes they argue with you, right? They will have something to say to you. Even, when you're walking, not doing anything, they might say, oh, why are you dressed like this? What is this thing in your forehead? Or you're doing some kirtan, and they'll come and they'll say certain things to you. And the way you respond back to them, and if you respond back to them very negatively, what happens is they develop animosity for you, right? And this animosity that they develop for you is actually an animosity developed for Krishna, because you're a representative of Krishna. You're an ambassador carrying Krishna with you in your heart, right? So what happens is they get bewildered from the path of worshipping Krishna as a person, and they could be deviated from this path for many lifetimes. You could push back, you as a devotee or as a practicing devotee, you not be perfect, you not be pure, but still as a practicing devotee, you have a capacity to push back someone for many lifetimes coming to Krishna. So essentially, we have a choice here. And when we do the choices which are in sync with the Lord's desire, then we have an outcome which helps us. If we make choices which are not in sync with Lord's desire, we still go back home, back to Godhead, but it's many lifetimes of wait. It's a lot of agony. It's more time wasted in the material world. And no one wants to waste time in shabby places, right? No one wants to go for holiday in Afghanistan, for example. Nice place to go for a holiday there? Of course not. So similarly, this material world is described as deplorable. Hitvavadyam imam lokam gantamat janatam mashi. That this material world is deplorable, and the soul wants to give this up and go back home, back to Godhead. So essential idea is Krishna will never intervene in your choices. You have this minute free will. You will eventually reach Krishna. What time you reach Krishna is in your own hands. Krishna never intervenes in that, because choices will have outcomes. Yes, Krishna's mercy may be there, and that can change the whole equation. A pure devotee's mercy may be there, and that can change the whole equation. So I'll pause at that free will question, because there is another route which I have to go, which Ines mentioned, that you will always end up doing what you actually wanted to do, because you're actually controlled by modes of nature. And that thing could be what Krishna wanted you. So, what Krishna wanted you to do, yes, possible, but it could also be something that Krishna didn't want you to do, because you are in the mode under the control of modes of nature. Okay, so I'll proceed to the next point. Do you all want to break for 5 minutes? If not, I can continue going ahead. I don't stop. I just keep going, whether it's a discourse or so you'll have to tell me if you want to stop for 5 minutes.
I just need to know how long the class will last.
I will go on until 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock my time. So another 1 hour, 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. 1 hour, 10 minutes. Okay.
1 hour, 5 minutes. 1 hour, 5 minutes. My apologies.
Yeah, I might have to go away for 5 minutes because I'm in the temple, and I have to put a plate aside for myself.
No problem. That's perfectly fine. Please feel free to go whenever you want to.
Not now, but that starts in about 45 minutes, something like that.
Sure. Okay, so I'll carry along. So in the 6th verse, Krishna is just mentioning that he is the creator and the destroyer. Prabhupada gives an example that small souls can build skyscraper, but super soul can build universes. And then seventh verse, which is Krishna is the maintainer of the Supreme Personality. It says that there is no truth, no one superior to me, O conqueror of wealth. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. That is, Krishna is the supreme maintainer of the whole universe. It may sound very egotistic when someone says such things, right? But actually, there is no way for an ordinary living entity with this size brain, even for brains as size of Brahma, who has 4 brains of massive, gigantic sizes, even of Brahmas who have like thousands of heads with thousands of brains, there is no mechanism by which we can know God if God doesn't tell us about him. So actually, instead of seeing these verses as coming from egoistic point of view, we should actually see them as coming from the mercy point of view, that if he doesn't tell Arjun about these things, there's no way Arjun or us would ever know anything about Krishna. And so he's extremely merciful and kind in actually telling us these things, that there is no truth superior to him. And this verse is a life-changing verse. Ask me how. There used to be this people from a specific company, they would put a badge here and they would say, lose weight now, ask me how. So I'm asking you this question. Oops, I think I shared my slide with you and I shouldn't have shared. So this verse is an amazing verse, and it is life-changing. It's a phenomenal verse. Do you know why? Chapter 7, verse number 7. 7. It says, O conqueror of the wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Everything, every word Krishna says has got a very, very deep import. Unfortunately, we don't have so much time to actually go in complete depth, but I will try and elucidate on some of the things and how profound they have been, even for the materialists, even in our daily lives. So this verse, specific verse, this one, actually, let me give you some time to answer this question. Why is this verse so important? Roshni, Nagesh, Ines. Any other thoughts? Why do you think this verse is so important?
7.
7.
We're not the controller.
Yeah. Again. What else? What else is said in the verse?
Discipline. We need to have discipline.
We need to have discipline. Yeah. Let's read the verse together. We need to have
faith.
We need to have faith. Yeah. Okay. Let's read the verse together. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. You guys have seen? Yes, Simon, you want to say something?
Hare Krishna. So I wanted to just say that perhaps I'm reading far too deeply into this verse, and I shouldn't read it in these terms. But whenever I've read this verse, it seems to me to strike at the heart of Achinta Bheda, in that although there appears to be there are the individual pearls, they all rest in Krishna. So there's that beautiful, incomprehensible or inconceivable difference and non-difference. So that's how I've typically read this verse, but apologies if that's incorrect.
No, it's a beautiful way to see it as well. But anyone, pearls as strung on a thread, like pearls strung on a thread is like a necklace, right? You put pearls together on a thread, and then you get a necklace. But when you see the necklace, you actually can't see the thread, right? You just see the pearls, right? So you don't see the underlying thread, but you do see the pearls. But there is something more phenomenal that happened with this verse, and Krishna literally in this verse has given us hint into how he has created the whole cosmic manifestation. If you go and study the modern science, they started with Big Bang, right? They started with Big Bang. The two scientists, speculators, sat on a French train, and discussed about theories, and came up with Big Bang. And from there on, there's many theories that were proposed as to what is the nature of the cosmos. And if you go and Google something about strings theory explains that actually this whole universe is woven into strings. There's a fabric which is running. This fabric is unseen. No one can see. And they call this fabric a space-time fabric, right? And the whole conception of black hole also comes from this. The black hole is one thing which actually breaks this space-time fabric and sucks away all the matter, and the antimatter, like that. But essentially, this strings theory is essentially what Krishna is mentioning here in Bhagavad Gita. He is mentioning that he is revealing his heart. He's telling that everything rests upon him, as pearls are strung on a thread. So there is an underlying thread which is Krishna, the energy which people call antimatter, this matter, that matter. Even in the time of Prabhupada, they were speaking of antimatter. And that concepts, they have slightly mutated, but not mutated so much. They have gone on to Higgs boson and God particle and this particle and that particle, Large Hadron Collider, and running underneath Switzerland and a lot of the other European countries. But here Krishna is very simply telling that there is this thread which is me, and in this thread you can see unlimited universes floating around, and it's not just one thread, it's like a fabric of threads. So this verse was something which was, it's a revelation for a cosmic fabric, essentially, which is what also a lot of the modern scientists understand, that there is a space-time fabric, and right now the universes and the planets, they're going apart, and at one point in time they'll start to come together faster and collide and all those things. So they can have countless such theories, but of the theories that you can believe in this word of Krishna, that he is the underlying thread which is carrying all the planets, unseen by anyone.
Sounds something like you're saying everything depends on Krishna, but is that what is being said as well, or not?
Not by the scientific community. They have only reached a point. I'll give you a very common example. If you go back in science, like 50 years, and from last 50, 60 years until recent 20 years ago, the science would only accept anything which is perceived by five senses. Only in last 20 years, because of infiltration of the Buddhists and Buddhist ideologies, they have started to understand and accept consciousness, and they've done some experiments in this direction. And now, so actually now they believe in the concept of consciousness and subconsciousness, and this whole awareness thing is because of that, and modern science supports it. So similarly, this science, they have come until this platform of saying that, okay, there is some energy which we can't see, which is like a fabric in nature, and which is actually holding all the planets together. You call it gravity, you call it God particle, you call it Higgs boson, you call it with so many different names. They're trying to find this God particle, which basically is the particle which is responsible for giving an atom, or giving that small thing its weight or its mass. What is that particle which has a property to give weight? Some particles give color, some particles give light. Similarly, some particles give weight or mass. And so they want to understand what is this God particle which gives properties to certain other particles. But they understand that whole cosmic, sorry, bear with me. This whole cosmic is like a fabric, essentially. And Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also mentions the same thing. He's mentioning that he is actually the underlying thread of this fabric. It's just that they have not come to an acceptance and agreement on that point, just as they did not come to an acceptance and agreement on consciousness many years ago, but now they started to accept it. Similarly, soon they will come to understanding that there is soul, because soul is the next level from the consciousness. And once they do come to understanding of the soul, then there is a door open for them to actually acknowledge the larger cosmos, because anything which is micro, and the properties of the micro is very similar to the properties of the mega, like the whole universe. So then they will have to accept those things. And a lot of things which Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita with regards to time, that the time is not linear. I don't know how many of you actually have heard of this equation E equal to mc square. Can you switch on your videos or just say, yes, I know about this equation? Maybe this is not a scientific
I've
group.
studied that in A level.
You have studied that in A levels, right? E equal to mc square. Famous equation from Einstein, right? So
Yeah,
very famous
energy
equation
equals
from
mass times the speed of light squared.
Yes. This equation from Einstein, this is an impossible equation. That equal to sign means that something on the left hand side is equal to something on the right hand side. And this is actually an impossible equation. Why this is an impossible equation, do you know? Because something which is running at the speed of light squared should have no mass, right? Because if you have to walk, light is super fast, right? You're running super fast. If you have to run super fast and if you're very heavy, can you run super fast? No. If you're light, can you run super fast? Yes. Can you run super duper fast if you're more lighter? Yes. If you're the lightest, can you run super fast? Yes. But when you start to run the maximum fast, then essentially you might not have any mass. So that means that m is equal to 0. So anything multiplied by 0 becomes 0. So energy is becoming 0 here. So what Einstein did in this equation is he was pondering, and this equation becomes impossible if you don't bend the time. So he bent the time in this equation. And this conception of time in other theologies is linear. There is a beginning and there is a doomsday, but not in Vedic system. In Vedic system, time is cyclical, right? So actually, Einstein got this concept that the time can be bent. And then there are many experiments that people are doing right now in which they're trying to send a particle and they're trying to get the particle in another dimension. Or they're trying to send a particle and actually receive the particle. They want to do time travel or they want to bend the time. The beginning with bending the time first. Exactly what Einstein did to make this equation possible, really. Okay, so we any questions so far? Any thoughts before we move on to the next? Okay, so these from verses 8 to 11, Krishna is telling about himself. And Krishna is saying, I am the taste of water, O son of Kunti. I am the light of the sun and the moon. From the light of the sun, all the heat comes, right? And everything becomes possible. All vegetation becomes possible. Similarly, all the taste in the vegetables, they come from moon. Moon, the demigod moon is actually responsible for giving taste in the vegetables. I'm the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. Om essentially means the first letter of sound that was created. I'm the sound in ether. I'm ability in man. It also means ability in woman, but it's just man is used as the main word. I am the natural fragrance of the earth. I am heat in fire. So when it's really cold, I realize this in my home. When it's really cold, I've got this large sun comes out, but with the sun, it's still very cold. But if you're behind a glass, then you can feel both the light and the heat. And so when I get that light and heat, I feel, okay, this is Krishna, because the heat feels so nice, the sunlight and the sun heat. Even during winter days, it can be felt when you're behind your sliding windows or the French doors. I am the life of all that lives. So Krishna is the essence of all life. I am the austerity of all ascetics. I am the original seed of all. So Krishna is the original seed of all living things. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. So if someone's really intelligent, then you should sense that, okay, this intelligence is actually a gift of Krishna. So the person is special, maybe because Krishna has bestowed some gifts to him or her. I am the prowess of all powerful men. So all raw power, it all comes from Krishna. I'm the strength of the strong, which is free from selfish desire and attachment. And lastly, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna. So, oftentimes we don't speak much about this portion, especially the sex life. But in Vedic system, this is not like a forbidden topic. It's just that it's not the main aim of the human life. Human existence is not for this. This is one of the portions of human existence, and it's meant really for progeny and for religious principles. Um, because what you're doing is you're giving an opportunity for other souls to come into existence and actually experience the material realms, but at the same time to actually undergo training to go back home, back to Godhead, because it's not easy to go back to Godhead. And what to speak of actually getting a birth in a family where you're given some training or some knowledge or some guidance about God, as to who God is and how to achieve God and how to please God, how to serve God, like that. So a sex life for the purpose of progeny is a recommended or religious process, is a religious way to actually bring a soul. um, I don't know, lot of years ago, someone asked me, so, how many souls are there? And, there's constantly people are born, and how many souls are there? And so, have not all the souls gone back home, back to Godhead? That was kind of a question. As I was explaining that actually, even in a small inch of space, there are millions of souls. Soul is a spiritual element. It's not a material element. And there are souls everywhere. Everywhere there are souls. um, Souls are very different to ghosts. When I'm speaking of souls, some people equate this to, oh, ghosts. No, we are not speaking of ghosts. Ghosts are souls which are stuck in the subtle bodies. We are speaking of just pure spiritual spark, the soul. In an inch of space, in an inch of material space, there could be millions and millions of souls. So every soul is looking for an opportunity to enjoy matter, and the only mechanism for them to enjoy matter is to actually get a body made up of matter, which is only possible through sex life. But if it's just meant to bring someone in the material life, give them an opportunity to enjoy the matter, then such kind of sex is condemned. It's not going to actually be beneficial to those living entities, because living entities without the knowledge of devotional service have no mechanism to go back home, back to Godhead. So this is what is a principle of sex in Krishna consciousness. It's not forbidden, it's not looked down upon, but it's useful. It's used as a tool to actually do some service for Krishna. So these verses 8 to 11, they're all aspects of Krishna's material energy, and they come under three modes. But the verse 12, Krishna is direct, and Krishna is saying it's Krishna is not in the modes, but modes are under the control of Krishna. This is what is mentioned in the verse 12. Any questions so far? No. Okay, so I'll move ahead. We'll move ahead to the next slide, which is, now we're going on to the next section. Let me just go and explain what next section is. So in this ladder, we first heard about the glory or the knowledge about Krishna. What's the glory of just the knowledge about Krishna? Then now we have studied what are all Krishna's energy, the material energies, which are, the earth, water, fire, air, ether, the subtle energies, the mind, intelligence, false ego. And we have also learned, what is Krishna prominently in these different energies. And these are all comes under the three modes of material nature. But Krishna clearly declares that he is not under the three modes of material nature. And now we're going to discuss about Sharanagati or surrender. Once you actually know about Krishna's material energy, what you generally develop in your heart is a greatness, a respect, right? So, so the Bhagavad Gita is a conversation which is actually the conversation of the heart. When I tell you something great about a certain person, then you become awed, you develop a respect, or you understand how great the person is. And it's really important for one to actually understand the greatness of God, because without developing a respect for God, you may not be able to develop the true nature of love. Because through respect, you first establish a relationship, and within that relationship, because relationship is dual, right? So if you tell me that please don't treat me like this, I wouldn't treat you like that, because it's a relationship. I want to have a relationship with you. Similarly, when you connect with Krishna through a sense of respect, through a sense of greatness and awe, then you are nicely placed to actually connect with Krishna in love, because then Krishna can give you a knowledge and impart some understanding onto you that, okay, I don't like the respect that you're giving to me. I like to be your friend. Where the friends joke with each other, or sometimes Krishna may say that, oh, I like to be in relationship with you as a parent or something. So but the beginning of all of that is knowledge of Krishna, and which you have to develop this understanding of greatness of Krishna. That's why Krishna is explaining about his greatness here out of his own mercy. Any questions? So, Sharanagati or surrender is Tribhir Guna Mayair Bhaver Ibihish Sarvam Idam Jagat Mohitam Nabijanati Mam Ebhya Paramavyayam. The jivas are deluded by the modes and thus cannot understand me, who am untouched by the modes and inexhaustible. So here Krishna is, in 12th verse, is already mentioned that he is beyond modes, but he's now specifically mentioned that the living entities, the jivas, because we are under the modes, we cannot understand Krishna properly. We are not able to understand Krishna clearly. And when we are in modes, Prabhupada mentions that we understand ourselves as Brahmanas, like the learned people, Kshatriyas, like the administrators, the warrior class, the Vaishyas, the business people, Shudras, the people who are like labor class, or people who want to do things, music, art, just the labor, or even lower than that, like animalistic in nature. And oftentimes we classify ourselves as Indians, English, Australian, German, American, Nigerian, Somalian. We are big, we are small, we are white, we are black, we're green. We divide ourselves mentally in all kinds of divisions. And till the time we have these kinds of divisions in our head, we are not going to go back to Godhead. I'm very sorry if I have said something which might have disturbed you, but till the time you have these kinds of conceptions of yourself, you have you are under bodily conception of life. You're not under the soul conception of life. And in the soul conception of life, all these distinctions actually vanquish in your mind and intellect. I've used the word mind and intellect. It goes away from what you are in knowledge of these, and there is no problem with that. You're in knowledge of these, but you are not focusing proactively on these divisions, on these classifications of yourself. Your only understanding, or your main focus of existence, is that you're servant of Krishna, and you're servants of Krishna's servants essentially. So that's the main focus of someone who is actually starting the process of surrender. Okay, now let me ask you all a question. Can you please introduce yourself? This is something that I usually do in every session right at the beginning. But in this session, I wanted to do it at this point. Just begin with your name. Pardon?
Shall I start?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I told everyone in the group that I'm new here. My name is Vijay Gaurangadas, and I live in France in New Maipo Temple. I've been here for 2.5 years. And before this, I lived in Amsterdam. And before that, I was born and raised in the UK until I was about 14.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. That was a very objective definition of yourself. Thank you so much. Bidisha, do you want to go in next?
Yeah, my name is Bidisha. I was fortunate to be born in a Gauriya Vaishnava grandparent house, but unfortunately, I couldn't realize that until last 3 years. So I'm very fortunate. It's never too late to come to his footstep. And
Wonderful.
currently, I live in London.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nagesh, you still here with us? Nagesh? No, I think he still has trouble. Yes. Hi, Nagesh.
Hi. Sorry about the
Hi.
issues.
Would you be able to open your video up only if it's possible?
Unfortunately, I'm currently based on the road.
We are barely able to hear you, Nagesh.
Sorry, my internet's kind of wonky.
I see.
Hi, my name's Nagesh, and I live in Australia. So, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
you. Are you an Australian?
No, I am actually Fiji Indian.
Okay. So you're an Indian. Okay. So just to tell you, this is the purpose of my this introduction session is just to know you a little bit more. Ines, do you want to go in next?
Sure. So my name is actually Ines.
Ines, sorry.
Yeah. No worries. So I was actually born in Spain, and then my parents decided to move to London. And now I'm currently a uni student studying philosophy.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Nice subject.
Hare
And
Krishna.
thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ines. And Simon?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well, I'm a spirit soul and I'm doing my best to love Krishna. But
you won, Simon. You just won this session.
Materially, I'm Simon. I work in cybersecurity. I also studied philosophy at university. I studied it twice, and then I did my second master's in computer science, which is why I torture myself using Linux and not having peripherals such as audio and webcam.
Audio, yeah. Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay, yeah, so my purpose of getting introduction done at this stage is to actually see how many people are aware of this very specific point that they're not Australian, they're not Spanish, they're not, XYZ, they're actually spirit souls. Because as long as we consider ourselves to be one of these by country, it's okay to know yourself. And when you're actually introducing yourself outside into the external world, you should introduce yourself as you are. Like I'm English, I'm born here, I'm Spanish, I'm born here. But internally, this is for internal meditation. Till the time you are in this kind of bodily conception, and till the time you identify yourself as one of these types, that means you're still under the modes of nature, modes of material nature. And this is the whole practice of a yogi, is to come out of the modes of material nature, to start identifying not as the body, but identifying you as the spirit soul and acting on that platform. The first step of acting on that platform is your introduction. Someone asks you who you are. And then at least when in spiritual circles, you can always say, I'm servant of Krishna. I'm a spirit soul. I'm not this body. It's basically reinforcing some spiritual facts back to yourself. When you say things back to yourself, it becomes very powerful. And you will see this power of this kind of repetition to yourself is that at one point in time, you will have this firm conviction and you'll start acting from that platform. So this is where Sharanagati begins, is that, that we understand that we are in the modes of material nature, we are conditioned, we are deluded, and that we need to take shelter. And Krishna says that transcending Maya by Krishna, this divine energy of mind, the Maya, consisting of three modes of material, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross over this Maya. So this is what I wanted to read, which Prabhupada has mentioned. It says the living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord. But due to contamination by inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal. So our illusion is also eternal. We are eternally under illusion that actually we are this material bodies. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. So we have been conditioned for a very long time. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history. This is because you can't trace out a date in material history, because we can only understand the concept of time and space. We have no conception of a space or a place where time is conspicuous by its presence. So there is also a place where time, say, doesn't exist because it must exist. It exists out of a need to fulfill a desire of the other living entities. So time becomes non-existent in a sense. We have no conception of such a place, but that place is spiritual world. And so therefore, because the spirit soul is spiritual, and because we belong to spiritual world, we come from that kind of a realm. So therefore, you can't trace our history, because every time we speak the word his story, story essentially refers to the timeline or the time element. And therefore, history cannot be spoken about the soul, because we never know a certain date, because there is no date, because there is no conception of time as it exists in the material realms. Consequently, his release from the clutches of material nature is very difficult, even though that material nature is an inferior energy, because material energy is ultimately conducted by the supreme will, which the living entity cannot overcome. So because we cannot overcome the material energy, therefore how do we what's the process of actually coming out of this material energy? Here also we have Devi hai Esha Gunamai. So this verse you might have to revise, remember, memorize, because it might come in your exams. It's a very important verse. Is two things which are very important here. Is one is guna, which also means rope. So Krishna, being the lord of illusory energy, can order his insurmountable energy to release the conditioned soul. He orders this release out of his causeless mercy on the surrendered soul, and out of his paternal affection for the living entity, who is originally a beloved son of the Lord. Therefore, surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is the only means to get free from the clutches of the stringent material nature. So here we are speaking about importance of surrender, that we are under these modes of nature, and the only means to come out of the modes of nature is actually by developing surrender, by developing this loving relationship. The beginning of this loving relationship is actually surrender, where you actually give up and say, okay, I'm tired of this material nature, and no matter how much I try hard, this game is rigged. It's not for me. This is being rigged by Maya or the modes of material nature. And actually, I don't belong here, to be honest. This kind of an internal conversation, that is the beginning. And honesty is the first step in sincerity. And once honesty is developed, someone becomes sincere. And in the state of sincerity, a sincere prayer can be achieved. So, and then Krishna uses word here, Mam Eva. Mam Eva means Krishna only, not by Lord Brahma, not by Lord Shiva. Brahma and Lord Shiva are partial owners or partial holders of the powers of the Lord. And Lord Shiva himself says that there is no doubt that Vishnu is the deliverer of liberation for everyone. But a lot of the foolish people, specifically in Indian part of the world, in Indian part of the world, essentially feel that Lord Shiva is the ultimate giver of the liberation, whereas Lord Shiva himself is actually mentioning these things, that he cannot deliver people. Now we're going to study about 4 types of impious people who do not surrender to Krishna. So far we have heard about Krishna and the importance of surrendering to Krishna. Now we're going to speak about 4 types of people that do not want to surrender to Krishna. And very interestingly, I was one of these types. After reading this verse, I could really understand what Krishna was saying. But any questions so far? Any questions on why we should surrender? Anyone has questions or doubts on should they surrender to God? Let me put it like this. Do you want to surrender to God? Yes or no question? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful.
Yes.
Ines? Wonderful. Nagesh? Any questions, any
Yes.
thoughts? Yes, super duper.
Yes, I
Simon?
do, but I want to I want to be able to surrender more.
Oh, wow, you're definitely very pure in your thought. I was very unlike you, meaning I wanted to surrender, but maybe I didn't want to surrender. Maybe because I was fearful Krishna might take certain things away from me. And I had to go through a very long journey of understanding the beauty of surrender. And
Maybe I'm saying the same thing.
no, I think you said a higher thing is you want to surrender more. And I was like, can I surrender a little bit less, Krishna? That was my internal conversation. Can I keep my things, Krishna, and still be happy? Or maybe Krishna, I want to come to you, but without any pains. That's the kind of conversation. So but your conversation is higher and a deeper and more meaningful conversation. Simon, do you have anything?
I think
Any question?
I think I can echo both of those sentiments actually. I think in my life as I've embarked on this journey, Krishna is constantly surprising me because when I think I've surrendered, he reminds me that no, not quite completely. You haven't quite completely surrendered everything yet. Actually, you have a huge mountain of places that you're not surrendered to me. So he, through his mercy, is constantly showing me how I can further surrender, and I'm very blessed to have that.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I agree
Wonderful.
with Simon. I agree with Simon. You might think you're surrendered, but there's always more to surrender.
Yep. No, 100%. And actually, because we are, I don't know about everyone, but most of us are very rebellious in nature. And Krishna knows this. A good parent, a good friend, a good lover knows exactly how the partner is or how the lover is. And so if they are genuine lovers, then they basically take you through the whole journey step by step slowly, but for some people it can also happen dramatically because Krishna knows that they have already done this in the past. I have known a lot of people like in middle age of their life, they've met an accident or they have gone through some crazy relationship situation, and all of a sudden they've just said, Krishna, this was always going to happen, I had to come to you, now it's only you. And they have like moved into the temples. So Krishna does this different kind of things for different people depending on what their situation is, what their relationship with Krishna is. But people like me don't want to surrender, to be honest. And then we're taken this slow journey where we slowly come to realization, evolution. And so really this is evolution of the consciousness. The consciousness by its own choice must come to an understanding by its own resolve and by its own making, by its own choices, must come to this. And all the while Krishna is waiting and helping out. Krishna is making arrangements, making possibilities, even for you to enjoy your senses if you so wish to desire, and then actually showing you how distasteful this can really become. But Krishna is there in throughout the whole process as the beauty. He's not like, okay, surrender to me, and then I won't help you in this whole process. He's just being with us all the time. Okay, so now we're going to discuss very interesting topic: 4 types of impious people who do not surrender to Krishna. This is the verse. Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhamaha maya aprita jnana asuram bhavam ashritaha. So the first category of people are mudha, or the animalistic fools, who work hard solely for material sense pleasure, which is available to animals also. So essentially, mudhas are those people who have nothing beyond material pleasures, material sense pleasures. So it's all about good body, good health, good life, good wife, good husband, good car, anything material. If it's not material, which is grossly material, then it's about performances, bands, shows, art, um, and so many divisions. Basically, these are the people who have they have not perceived anything higher other than the matter, really. And when I speak matter, even the subtle forms of matter, meaning anything related to mind, intelligence, and false ego. Second category is Naradhama, is the lowest of mankind, humans who lose their chance to revive their lost relation with God. They give up bhakti even after practicing it. So these are the lowest of mankind. Why they are called the lowest? Because see, the mudras, the animalistic fools, they're enjoying, they are happy, because they love matter and they get matter, and they're doing everything to do with matter. The problem with Naradhamas is the reason they're called lowest, or the reason they're called Adhama, is because they became really low is because they got something really high. And instead of actually grasping this really high thing, they actually went back to the lowest thing. And therefore they're called Naradhamas. It's like example is given, like there is a jar of honey and there is a honeybee, and honeybee is loitering around the edges, the sides of the honey jar, and is actually not able to get in. And this honeybee, you know this is it's trying its best to actually relish this taste, but it's not able to get in. It's not able to get into the jar and not able to actually relish the taste of the honey. And that is because the lid is closed. Similarly, in these people, Naradhamas, they actually close themselves to some relationship with the God because of their false ego, because of their conditionings, I should say. Some of them could be addicted, some of them could be, so even though they get something really high, they're addicted, they fall back, or they choose to fall back consciously. um, and sometimes, a lot of the people come to the temples in association of devotees, but as soon as they get into the association of devotees, there is one devotee or there's one person who treats them really rough, does not give them the sweet or ask them to move away from the path, in the temple is congested, or just says certain things, something which is not presented in a nice fashion. And because they have very high false egos, they're actually not able to take this. And immediately they say, oh, this is all bad, this is all bogus, and they're out of the whole thing. Now what they are out of is something which was a path for their liberation, and that's a massive loss. And therefore, it's important to understand that there's a big role for the devotees who are already in the movement, already practicing, to be nice, nice, just nice. I was told by one of my mentors long time ago, when I was becoming really rude and nasty and arrogant. Arrogance is something that happens to you if you're practicing and you're being successful. This very wonderful and very senior devotee, practicing for I don't know how many decades, he was my good friend, and he just told to me, "Be nice, be nice." I could only understand the meaning in hindsight after many years. So devotees are supposed to be nice, and they should be nice, not just supposed to be nice. They should be nice, and they should come by natural practice. And when we are nice, then there is less chances of pushing away people from the devotional path. So Naradhamas are those who actually have left devotion after actually practicing it, after actually seeing it. Um, but sometimes they're not necessarily Naradhama, but sometimes they're not able to get the experience out of it. Most of the people who have sincerely practiced it for some time, they will get direct experience of Krishna. In fact, Shivram Maharaj has actually written a book in which he explains that if you chant for 10 years, this is what you should experience in your Krishna consciousness. If you chanted for 12 years, 15 years, you should experience these things in your Krishna consciousness. And the book is called Chant More. So this is a very scientific process, and a lot of people have experienced the science, experienced the joy, the bliss that we are all looking for. The third category is Maya Aprita Jnana, deluded speculators. Despite having studied the scriptures, their knowledge is stolen by Maya, and they think of God to be an ordinary human being. These are basically scholars. So the different scholars, they study too much and study from so many different branches that they're actually not able to fixate and understand the essence from all of these things. And therefore, their knowledge actually gets stolen away by delusion. And the reason they're deluded is because they studied so many things that they can't fixate anything in their mind. And also, because they don't have any foundation as to what's higher and what's lower, they couldn't actually decide what was the essential part against what was not an essential part. And the fourth category is Asuram Bhava Mashrita. These are demonic atheists. They're just basically envious of God. So the third category, which is Maya, the scholarly category, Maya Aprita Jnana, they provide unauthorized interpretations of Gita, which are not in the systematic parampara line. And anyone who reads such Gita, it will create a lot of stumbling blocks. There is a very famous author of Gita, which basically completely twists Bhagavad Gita, completely changes the intent, meaning, content. And basically, because I don't know, you all understand this more than me, maybe because you know more about this, but there are content creators these days, right? And these content creators, they need content to actually make money. And what other source of content can you get better than Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas? So basically, they've taken Bhagavad Gita, twist and turned every single way that they can to actually make new meanings and present it in with spice and present it with flavor for the target audience, essentially. Many such people have become big. Their books, their understanding of Bhagavad Gita is, like the New York bestseller or this and that. So one should avoid such Bhagavad Gitas, because essentially they're not written by pure devotee. They're not written by someone who understands Krishna or who is a devotee of Krishna. They're just written for the sake of money. So essentially, you will not understand anything from it. And this fourth
I have a
category,
question.
Haribo, yes, go ahead.
So about your last point, what if they find like some sort of like a different meaning, but it's like still like Krishna consciousness, if that makes sense? Like it's not fully like, it's like nothing wrong against it. For example, like it's a different perspective, like something new, but not that new, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. There is many shades between white and black, right? There is gray, light gray, dark white, off white, this white, then black. So there's many shades between white and black. What I intend for you to understand and take from this conversation is you should know essentially what is white and what is black. If you completely understand what is white and what is black, then when the shades of gray come, then automatically your consciousness will be driven by understanding what is more towards white and what is more towards black. So people who put different perspectives on the shlokas, and there is nothing wrong with it. They want to drive different meanings of the same shloka, perfectly fine. But that's why this whole conception of Bhagavad Gita is that the knowledge will be transformative and powerful only if it is taken from authorized spiritual masters. Otherwise, it will become informative and entertaining. So, for information and entertainment, you can have many different, because every single verse of Sanskrit can be interpreted by 50,000, 100 different ways. And it's possible. Every single verse can be broken down in so many ways. Every single word can be broken down in so many ways, and they can be understood in so many. And this is exactly what acharyas have done, but they have kept the intention and the meaning which is in sync with the desires of the Lord. So when you read all of these so-called interpretations or so-called new way of thinking, you have to see if whatever they have said is in sync with the desire of the Lord. Oftentimes they're not even in the context of what the verse was actually meant for. So, if you read 18 verses before a verse and you read 10 verses after a verse, you will get what was the context in which this verse was spoken. And if the context is lost, then the verse has actually no meaning. That's their own Gita. That's not Bhagavad Gita. So a lot of people do this. They just create their own Gitas by taking Bhagavad Gita. So you can use them as a source of entertainment and information. And some of this information might be positive information with positive energy. That doesn't mean it will be heard by the soul, because for something to be heard by the soul, it needs to be transcendental, transport the consciousness and be able to penetrate the consciousness to reach the soul. So these words, they are not transcendental because they are not in line with the previous acharyas. Does that make sense?
So I was mainly mostly referring to, for example, let's take the first quote of the Bhagavad Gita, like Dhritarashtra Uvacha. How
Yeah.
if I'm giving my own perspective in the sense of like a blind king that shows that we are
Yeah.
also blinded by life, and we give that sort of thing, if that makes sense. Would that be
Yeah.
counted as that sort of thing or not? That's where I'm thinking.
Yeah, you're basically making meanings for people to from your own understanding. So you can have your own definitions. Say, for example, you read the Trashtra Vacha, right? You can put that whole thing in your own words, no problem, right? But then you start to explain it with, our own life has got so many problems, we are blinded, and you start to make allegories out of it. This is where it deviates from the original line of disciplic succession. The intent and the meaning of the verses, they can be put in many different words, but if the essence is lost, then it can't penetrate the via medium. It may be entertaining, but it will not penetrate the soul of any individual, and it
So if
definitely
the
will not be
essence is kept, it's
transformative
okay then. If the
if
essence
the
is kept.
essence is maintained. If the
Okay.
essence is maintained. Yeah. And therefore, this is, I said, there is gray between white and black, right? So when you actually mention the essence is maintained, sometimes people use the modern keywords, right? Feminism, this ism, that ism, and they can actually just, for the hearing audience, actually the verse content and intent is something else, and the person who's actually made this new interpretation, or the new way of presenting, was also intending to keep the meaning and the essence the same, but they ended up coining some words or using some modern day vocabulary of words, which actually to the hearer has a completely different connotation. You see? So then for the hearer, the essence is then changed. So it's not just about us being honest and sincere, but also about what is the audience that we're going to tell this message about. Will they be able to understand the essential meaning of this, or will they not be able to understand essential, or will it be all clouded by this? That's perfectly fine. So it's not that easy. It's not that easy to actually answer. It's not a black and white. So every time you do such a thing, like for example, you could be asked to write an essay on verses 5 and 7 of chapter 7, right? And you can put that down in your own words. As long as the meaning remains the same, it makes sense. But if you're now becoming like a modern day content creator, and then you go on and use the verse and cut it and put it in different ways, and actually the target audience perceives it in a completely different way to what its original intention of even the maker of the content was, then you have lost it. Then it's no longer via medium. It's no longer breaking the via medium. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so these are 4 types of impious people. Now we're going to read 4 types of Sukritana. Sukritana means the 4 types of pious people. Pious people who worship and eventually surrender to Krishna. See the beauty of the words Prabhupada has used. So people who worship, and they may not be fully surrendered, but they have some kind of faith and liking, and they want to surrender and eventually surrender to Krishna. So here I'm going to describe 3 types of bhakti to you now. So Kritanas are pious people who follow the scriptural principles. social and moral codes and rules of varnashram and worship Krishna. Now, there are three types of bhakti which is mentioned. First, and the very topmost, is called Kevala Bhakti, which is unalloyed devotional service. The word Kevala has got many meanings in Sanskrit. Kevala can only mean only. That could be one of the meanings of Kevala. It could also mean one. And therefore, actually, monists use this word Kevala to actually refer to impersonal existence of God. But in all the Vedic scriptures, the word Kevala in Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam actually refers to pure or unalloyed devotional service. So Kevala Bhakti is unalloyed devotional service performed only to please Lord Krishna without any selfish motives. It is also called Ananya Bhakti. Ananya means without any break, continuous Bhakti. Ananya Bhakti, Akinchana Bhakti. Akinchana means a Bhakti which is without any desire. Or Uttama Bhakti means, Tama means more of ignorance, Tamas. Uttama means something which is higher than Tamas, which is also used to refer to goodness. So Uttama also refers to topmost or higher or highest. So, or Uttama Bhakti. So Uttama Bhakti is also like Kevala Bhakti. So if you hear these words like Ananya Bhakti, Akinchana Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti, that results in devotee becoming an associate of the Lord in the flavor of Dasya, Sakya, and other rasas. So Kevala Bhakti or Ananya Bhakti is topmost. So these four types of pious people, they don't come under this Kevala Bhakti category. They come under this Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti and Guni Bhuta Bhakti. So Pradhani and Guni means one and two. Pradhan means the most essential or the first. And this bhakti is mixed with tendencies for karma, jnana, yoga, but bhakti is more prominent than one's other desires. So one has desires, but they basically push those desires to the secondary position. But their primary position, primary means pradhani, and gauni means secondary. So pradhani means primary. Their primary intention is to do bhakti. They also have other desires for jnana, yoga. A lot of the people fall into this category. The four types of Sukritina or the pious devotees, they that also come under this category called Pradhani Bhakti. And then Gauni Bhakti means secondary bhakti, is bhakti mixed with tendencies for karma, jnana, yoga, and so on, with bhakti as a secondary element. It is seen in the karmis, jnanis, yogis who predominantly desire results for their actions. So, what are the four kinds of devotees, or who are called Sukritan or pious? Is someone who is distressed but has come to Krishna. Someone who is distressed but has come to Krishna. Jignasu means someone who is inquisitive but has come to Krishna, like Shanak Rishis. Artha Arti means the seekers of wealth. How many of you want wealth and you have come to Krishna? There's a famous billionaire who would come to the temple every morning and he would put 20 pence in the donation box. And one day he was was almost about to become bankrupt, and he came to the temple and put 20 pence and prayed to the Lord intensely. And on that day, the stock of his company, the equity of his company shot in the stock market, and he was saved. Basically, he went on to become a big billionaire in the world. And he comes to the temple. He tells the history. Always mentions that he used to put 20 pence. So there is people who come to God for money, for luxuries, for whatever. But essential part is they have come to Krishna. Anyone who comes to Krishna is not ordinary. So because they have come to Krishna, they are glorious. So even if you come to Krishna for wealth, there is no problem. And then this last category, or the seekers of knowledge of Lord Krishna, example, Shukadev Goswami. This is a very important category, and this is the category which is really important category. Here Prabhupada says, as Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport of this Sukritan or pious people, he's mentioning about miscreants. He's mentioning as far as miscreants are concerned, for them the devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish. So they're very selfish, irregular. So they sometimes do something, then they fall back, then they do something again, fall back again, and without spiritual goals. So they have no goals. They just come, whatever is happening. We're with the flow. We're with the flow. We're flowing with the flow. We'll see what happens. We've come here. We'll see what happens. They're not determined. They don't have any goals. So, but even some of them by chance when they come in contact with a pure devotee. So if someone comes in contact with a pure devotee, like a monk or like a sannyasi, then even they can become pure devotees. So this is the magic of association of pure devotees. So these four devotees, they have come out of distress to the Lord. There's someone who has come as an inquisitive, someone who has come as a seeker of the wealth, and someone who seeks knowledge of the Lord Krishna. So of this, Krishna declares that the fourth category, which is Jnani, is actually the topmost. And the reason Krishna says Jnani, the fourth one, the seeker of knowledge of Lord Krishna, is the topmost. He says of the four superstars, because Jnani is constantly thinks of me and serves me alone. I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. So Prabhupada says that the first three categories of the devotees, they serve Krishna because they want some desires fulfilled from Krishna, right? But for Jnani, he serves Krishna wanting to know about Krishna. That's amazing, right? How many times you have gone to a lover and said, actually, I don't want anything from you. I just want to know you. I just want to know you. Go to your girlfriend or boyfriend and just say, or your wife or your husband, and, say, I don't want anything from you, but I just want to be with you. I just want to know you a little bit more. It's very romantic, right? So it's also romantic for Krishna. This is fourth category, which is Jnani. They just don't want anything from Krishna. Unlike the first three category, they are with the material desires. So Jnani is the best because he's without material desires. Their desire is to know Krishna. A Jnani, after searching, after knowledge, realizes that he is different from his material body. Upon further advancement, he knows that Brahman and Paramatma, when fully purified, he realizes that his constitutional position is to be eternal servant of the Supreme God. So they come to this realization slowly that they are actually the servant of Krishna. When they and trust me, they have a very long journey. It's not a fast journey. Oh, I'm a Jnani, I am pure devotee of Krishna in this lifetime. No. This journey that I'm speaking of is sometimes many lifetimes. From Jnani to devotee is a very long lifetime. Of many Jnanis, Jnanis could be wanting to know about so many topics because there are different categories of Jnanis. But one specific category of Jnani wants to know about the absolute and even about the absolute in personal form. And that Jnani is really the topmost. So Krishna says that, okay, you have come to me for money, fine. You've come to me for distress, fine. You've come to me because you were inquisitive. You just wanted to understand how things work. Who am I? Am I the supreme God? Okay, that's fine. You were inquisitive. Or you have come to me as a Jnani who is the most perfect of all four categories. Krishna says that all four are magnanimous or Mahatmas. You have heard of Mahatma Gandhi, right? Mahatma is a word given for magnanimity. It's like a doctor, we say the word doctor. Similarly, we have a word Mahatma. So Mahatma means Mahan Atma, or the great soul. And so another meaning of it is magnanimous. So all four, even if you go to Krishna for wealth, even if you go to Krishna for distress, if you go to Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, then you're magnanimous because you're not going to any other powerful human or any other powerful living being, Zeus, or I don't know who else, Indra. You're not going to any of these so-called powerful personalities. You're just going to Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you're magnanimous, you're Mahatma. But even among them, Jnani is the best. He is exceedingly dear to me and like my own self. Being engaged in my service, he is sure to attain me the highest and the most perfect goal. This is what Krishna reaffirms again in this verse. The Jnani is the best and is in me always. And then the last verse before we stop for today.
I had a question about what you said about, I heard this common thing that you mainly go to Krishna, but when they say don't go to other demigods for like if you want something, someone told me that it's okay to go if you want like to in a way please Krishna with that thing. So for example, I was mainly referring, someone told me it's okay if I want to go to Saraswati, if I want to get knowledge to learn about Krishna.
Yeah. I mean, if you want anything to please Krishna, you can go to any of these powerful creatures, right? If the intention is to actually be with Krishna, please Krishna, and do all those things. But still, Krishna suggests that it's best to come to him directly. But there is no harm going to any of these powerful entities um, with an intention to please Krishna. A lot of the people actually go to these entities without knowledge of Krishna because they don't have knowledge of Krishna. This is what Krishna is saying in the next verse, that it's extremely rare to have a pure devotee is because they don't have knowledge. Bahunam janmanamante, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me. So those people who have actually reached to Krishna, even as distressed people, even as wanting wealth, they are not pure devotees, 100%. They are not on the path of becoming a pure devotee immediately, but they actually have some knowledge of Krishna. And because they have iota of knowledge of Krishna, they have gone into the Supreme Personality of God and not gone to any other. But if you were worship of, say, Ganesha, Saraswati, or anyone, like I used to worship Saraswati for knowledge when I was a child, because I didn't know who Krishna was, or maybe I didn't agree with what Krishna entailed. So I would worship Mother Saraswati on the 31st night when everyone was partying out for the 31st night, boozing and singing and dancing. I was with my books worshipping Mother Saraswati on 31st December. So, but I had no knowledge of Krishna. So what happens when you worship demigods is mentioned in the next set of sections. We're going to get into that in quite a bit of graphic details about it. I don't want to tell you in advance. If that's okay, can we hold the horses for next session?
Yeah, that's fine. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. That's a
Krishna.
beautiful question. Yes.
Prabhu, I just wanted to
Yes.
ask maybe a funny question. Is it very important? I've got a feeling that verse 15 and 16 are very important to learn the Sanskrit terms and things like this for the exams.
Yes, they're good for exams, but they're even good for you to actually speak to anyone else, about Krishna. Just to know
Okay.
what kinds of four people who do not come to Krishna.
I mean, I've heard
Nara,
about the
Dhamma.
four types of.
Yeah.
I've heard about those that do come to Krishna, but not about those that don't come to Krishna. That's new for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's good to remember these categories in English. If you can remember them in Sanskrit, even great. I am a big proponent of reciting the verses, memorizing them, the important ones, because they will pop out of your heart when you will not even be expecting it to remembering them. Because these verses are not registered by mind and intelligence, they are registered by soul, because they can break the via medium immediately and reach the soul. So the communication between the shloka and the soul is the most powerful communication. It's a direct word of the Lord. So if you can memorize this, Gajendra, or the elephant, there's a story of Gajendra. I don't know how many of you remember the story or know about the story. The story goes like, it may take me a little bit over time, but I'm going to go ahead and tell the story. Is in previous life, Gajendra was a king in the Dumna. And this king was a very powerful king, and he was a very greatly devoted king. And this king, he was so much absorbed in devotional service of the Lord that once there was a great rishi called Durvasa Muni who was passing by. And because he was absorbed in the meditation of the Lord, he couldn't actually give respects, offer obeisances to Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni said, okay, what is this intellect and consciousness which is like an elephant, immovable, that actually such a person doesn't even respect the saintly persons who are passing nearby. So I curse this person to become an immovable or difficult to move kind of a creature, which is elephant. And so the next life, this king becomes an elephant. He lives has beautiful wives, but goes in a lake to bathe. And in the lake, a crocodile bites the leg of this elephant. And there is a 10,000 years old 10,000 years. The battle is going on between an elephant and a crocodile. With the time, the elephant becomes weak because water is not the natural position of an elephant. Land is the natural position, and crocodile grows strong. And so this elephant is about to lose his life, and in this time, in this most difficult time of his existence, do you know what he remembers? He remembers the shlokas from his previous life, from his previous life. Because in his previous life as a devotee of the Lord, in the morning times or in the evening times, he would recite the shlokas. He would memorize and recite the shlokas for the Lord. So in this elephant body, which is not supposed to have great memory, because elephants eat too much and then sleep and cannot move. So in this elephant body, which is difficult for everything in terms of memory, this elephant remembers the shlokas or the devotional service of his previous life. And in this shloka, he starts to glorify the Supreme Lord, and the Lord comes to his rescue. This is why I always stress, take some time out, go through everything slowly. There is no rush. You don't have to memorize all the Bhagavad Gita. 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 50 shlokas, more than sufficient. Just go through them slowly, relish them, eat them, sleep them. Socrates used to sleep with Bhagavad Gita under his pillow. So, we as practicing devotees can also relish shlokas by reciting them and reflecting on them. And then every now and then you bump into a devotee, you can say, guess what? I've wanted to say something. Krishna just said, Dushkritino Mudha. So you'll remember these Sanskrit terms piece by piece, and over a period of time, you'll remember them all. This is the beauty of the shloka. They are nothing to do with language. They have nothing to do with what background you come from. Because Prabhupada, in his books, he's broken it down into English, and he's broken it down word by word. It's possible for anyone who has not studied Sanskrit, not studied Hindi, not studied any other similar language, by mercy of Prabhupada only, can actually very easily recite and remember all these shlokas. So I know so many brahmacharis, so many other people who are working professionals. They remember even 50 shlokas, even 20 shlokas. They're life changing. They'll pop out from your heart in your most difficult times. And I will give you one example after another example in every single session that we go on from now on, how important it is to recite and remember some of these shlokas. With that, I will just stop. I just wanted to say one more thing, is that that pure devotee is extremely rare. After many, many births, someone comes into pure knowledge of Krishna. And someone who is in pure knowledge of Krishna, also doing devotional service, not just knowledge, also doing some service for the Lord. That's the prime existence of a human condition. And that in that existence, the soul that is there is called a pure devotee, because they have a proper knowledge of Krishna, and knowledge is the beginning of all of this, and they are in devotional service. So the question that comes after this chapter is, okay, if this is the ultimate goal achieved by a devotee of Krishna, then what happens to those who worship the demigods or the devatas? This is the question that would come in the mind of a person hearer, or in the mind of Arjuna. So Krishna starts to answer this question even before Arjuna has actually asked this question. Krishna knows what he's thinking, and he's going to start answering this question from verse 20 onwards, 20 to 25. So we'll go into the remaining portion of this chapter in next session. Any questions, any thoughts, any suggestions, any corrections? Please feel free to share now before we stop.
Yeah, I have one question, which is it always confuses me a little bit. I just need a very short answer. Material energy, is that the same as inferior energy? And
Yep.
you have also the superior energy, which is not anything to do with material or inferior energy, correct? So
Correct.
material
Correct.
energy and inferior energy are the same. They just have different names.
Correct.
Okay.
Super. Thank you so much for your attention and tolerating me. I'm very happy to see you all, and I'm very happy to have this very intrigued and very engaging set of devotees trying to love Krishna, trying to engage in Krishna. And next session when we start, we'll revise everything we have done in this session. So this is how I do the sessions usually. My most time is gone in first revising what we have done so far. So after the end of the whole unit, on the last day, we are going to have a very long session where we revise everything from 7 onwards till like 12th chapter before taking the 12th chapter itself. So you can relax in the meantime, but I would request you all to go on this journey of reflection. whatever you have taken away from this session, 4 kinds of non-pious devotees, 4 kinds of pious devotees, whatever else you have picked up, just go on a journey of reflection, get questions. Question is the only sign of living soul, because if someone has a question, that means they're in conversation with themselves. So thank you so much, and I'll see you. Just an announcement: next Sunday I won't be there. I am right now in India because my father has passed away just a few days ago. So I will be here, and I will be in London. I'll be flying to London next Sunday. So in around this time, I'll be in my flight. So my sincere apologies. I won't be able to take next Sunday, but the Sunday after we'll resume. Thank you so much for your patience and
Just
kindness.
one more question, Prabhu, about the recording. Will it be available this week so we can so I could go back and look up a few things?
I will ask the designers of the course to please make it available as soon as possible.
Okay.
This week.
I don't know what standard practice is. That's why I'm asking.
I think they make it available, but it's dependent on the person's availability and when they get time to actually upload it.
Okay. So where do we find something like that? How would we know? I don't.
It will be in that group chat only. Alexander Prabhu, the one you're seeing under London College of Vedic Studies, he will be publishing it, that video, within 2
And it will come on the WhatsApp
at the same
group.
day. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mataji.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Very sorry, Prabhuji, to hear that, and still you're delivering this class. Thank you, Hari Bol Prabhu. Hari Bol Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.